We can. Welcome everybody to HCM Awareness Day 2025. I'm going to get our slideshow started here in just a minute. Just a couple of housekeeping notes for you all today. You'll see that there are some different features than you will typically see at an HCMA webinar, including the reaction button is now on. So as you watch the events, you can comment, you can communicate with each other. There goes the hearts. I see them coming up now. And I hope you guys all enjoy what we have in store for you today. Without further ado, because we're already 2 minutes behind, I'm going to go over to Stacy Titus Brown, our Center of Excellence Coordinator, who's going to share some information about her programming at the HCMA. Stacy, come to front stage, please. Stacy, come to front stage. Stacy, come to front stage. There's Stacy coming to front stage. Stacy, the show is yours.
Show is mine. I am not seeing slides currently.
I have opening what is this? I have my run of show and I have you first. Who is this? That's Lisa and her. What's going on? Okay, hold on, everybody. Someday we're going to be perfect. Today's not looking like our day, even though it looks like I am on this slide too. I don't know why that was just up a little bit early. Okay, now we're going to start. And yes, you were first. Your Center of Excellence Fundraising Health Equity. And this is our virtual team tour coming to you now. Sorry about that. Having a little bit of tech issue, but we're back on track. Okay, this is our virtual office tour. In a minute, I'm going to leave this space and I'm going to go on my cell phone and show you the office after Stacy does her presentation, and then we'll be going around the office from there. So HCMA Centers of Excellence, as many of you know, are a cornerstone program of the HCMA. We've been running this program for over 20 years, and we're super proud that we have 56 HCMA recognized Centers of Excellence at the HCMA. Stacy coordinates those efforts and has been doing so for the past several years. Stacy, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. So, as Lisa said, I am Stacy Titus Brown. I am the Center of Excellence Coordinator here at the HCMA. I joined about full-time 3 years ago. I too have HCM myself. You also hear Centers of Excellence referred to as COEs. And what is a Center of Excellence? A Center of Excellence is a program that provides high quality care to patients with HCM in accordance with the guidelines, and dedicated to treatment and research in the area of HCM. Patients that seek out high volume care and improves their outcomes and quality of life. This is my mission personally, as my mom was mismanaged from her HCM and passed away when I was just 10 years old. So this mission and making sure that patients have access to care is extremely important. So helping to develop centers of excellence is one of our my highest priorities, as well as HCMA. So it's simple: provide you, your family, and those you love the highest quality of care possible. So Ross, you can go to the next slide, please. So as Lisa mentioned, we have over, we went one too far. Can we go back one? Can we go back one slide? Can we go back one slide?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So as Lisa mentioned, we have about 56 programs, recognized centers. This is a list of all our programs and who we are currently our recognized programs. It's a very robust list that keeps me very busy, but it's out there for you, the patients and the community, to reach out. And we have an active directory listing on our website. So please use our resources, our tools to connect with these programs. And they are there to provide you the care that you need. And you can go to the next slide, please. So this is our programs in a map form. showing where all these programs are across the country. The ones in the red are recognized programs. The ones in pink and gray are programs that are in development and under evaluation and pending. So we are busy. These programs are in the works. As these programs submit their applications, we will go and do a site visit and visit them and assess them and submit to our board to see if they're ready to be deemed recognized centers of excellence. So if there's not one in your community, we're hoping to bring them, you know, something more local to you, so that way everybody has access to care that they need. And I think, yeah, we have over 60,000 families that are managed by our centers of excellence. And I also just wanted to highlight our big Hearted Warrior educational events. The Big Hearted Warrior Tour started as a virtual event where we focus with a partner with our centers of excellence. And it started in a virtual form where we highlight each of our programs on a monthly basis. And they do a educational series to the community, not just to patients, it's to fellow centers of excellence and our partners. And it's a great free educational webinar. And this is our agenda, our calendar that's happening for the rest of 2025. But originally this event was supposed to be in person, and that was in March of 2020. And we quickly pivoted to virtual, but now we are bringing some locations back to in person. So this year we're excited to be going to Orlando, Seattle, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. Registration is currently open for our Orlando event, which is happening on April 26th. If you visit our website, you can get more information, and we'd be happy to see our Orlando community. So please come join us. And that's just a quick little highlight of some of the things that I do here at the HCMA. And I guess I'm going to give it back to Lisa, but happy HCM Awareness Day, everybody.
Thank you, Stacy. If we could have Elena come to the stage and talk about some of our fundraising and partnerships. And she has a special guest with her. Mike Papali is going to come on stage as well. And Stacy, you could go backstage. And Elena, I'm going to turn off my microphone. And then Stacy's going to come over to my computer and help me out here.
Do I have to put myself backstage or somebody else?
Put yourself backstage.
Let me see if I know how to.
All right, next slide, please, Ross. All right, so my name's Elena Morgan. I am the assistant director at the organization. And a big part of what I do is I manage our partnerships and our fundraising. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Next slide. So this is our 2024 expenses and our income, and I want to tell you about it just for a moment so that you can see that the biggest expense we have here are our people. So that's what the HCMA is about. We are people serving people. So more than half of what our income is going to go to is all of our staff here doing the work that we do. And I also wanted to point out that we're a nonprofit, so we're getting our money from sponsorships, from grants, and from donations. And I wanted to break down our donations just a tiny bit and say thank you to all the people who are making the organization run. Ross, could you do next slide? So in 2024, we brought in $367,000 in individual donations. This isn't from companies. This is from patients and people just like you. In fact, it was 530 people and 411 of which were brand new people who had never donated to the organization before. And one really popular program that people gave to last year was our Lori Fund. Our Lori Fund are travel grants that we've been able to give out to people who are trying to get to good HCM care, to get to a center of excellence that Stacy just told us about. So we brought in $12,000 of people wanting to help people get to a centers of excellence. And I don't have the number exactly, but we've been able to give out over $10,000 in those grants. All right, next slide. So we get a lot of money from individual donors, but another really important source of income for the organization is our partners. We do so many different projects with our partners. This is everyone that we worked with in 2024. Some of them are pharmaceutical partners, some of them are foundations, Morristown Medical Center. So all these different foundations, they support us both financially and by doing a bunch of different projects with us. And I wanted to highlight one in particular that we started with DefibTech actually 2 years ago, and the project's still continuing. So next slide, please. So the initiative is called Drill Dr. Heart. And the idea is that you, as a patient, would get together with your employer, your house of worship, your school, your sports team, and with key community members there, and you guys would plan your cardiac emergency response. So you need to make sure that someone is CPR and AED certified, but then you need to have a plan. You need to just be beyond that certification. So you plan how you're going to respond to an emergency. You're going to practice it, and then you're going to send us either a video or a picture of your company or your group doing the challenge, showing that you are prepared for a cardiac emergency. And then we have a quick form that you can fill out, and then you could win an AED. We have DefibTech here to talk a little bit about their part in the project. And so far, we have given one AED to a cheerleading gym, and they have now an AED in their gym that they never were able to have before, thanks to DefibTech. So I will turn things over to Mike.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for including us in this. Most importantly, and I'm so proud that we're able to support this. I am an HCM patient, and I'm so thankful to, Lisa and the whole HCMA team for all they do for HCM patients like myself. At the FibTech, we are an AED manufacturer. So we sell AEDs all over the world. And when Lisa and Elena and the team reached out, and this is a no-brainer for us to support. And my favorite part about this is it's not just placing an AED, it's placing an AED with a program around it, making sure that there's trained responders, there's an action plan, and that action plan is being practiced, because we know all of those things combined can lead to the highest survival rate from sudden cardiac arrest. So we're super proud to support the program. We're going to obviously keep doing it. And yeah, thanks for having us, and thank you for all the great work that you all do.
Next, we have health equity, and I believe Sarah is going to be coming on for health equity. If we can bring Sarah to the stage, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. I am one of the health equity leads, and I'm also the office administrative assistant. I am responsible for scheduling partner meetings, managing these crazy calendar, and overseeing our health equity committee, and also leading efforts on All Hearts project. If you could see that little animation there, that is one of our videos that is involved into our All Hearts project. Ross, you could go to the next slide, please. Health equity. With health equity, we have created a committee that focuses on HCM and especially disparities in health equity throughout different communities. Of course, we all know our goal is to ensure fair and represent our patients, to provide in varied ages and race and ethnicities. Next slide, please. Our All Hearts Collaborative, this project is very close to my heart. As a patient of HCM and also as a resident of Newark, we are starting to launch a project in Newark to raise awareness on knowing your family heart health. as an HCM patient, and from Newark, our community really needs this awareness. So by educating our communities, risk of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, amyloidosis, hypertension, we aim to improve the rates and empower individuals to take proactive steps towards better heart health. And if you ever have any questions and you would like to join this wonderful project, if you could go to the next slide, please.
So if you don't want to be on a camera.
You could also email me. Or you could also actually for our volunteer opportunities. Thank you.
So I am going to stop screen sharing and we're going to pause, and Lisa is going to get brought to the stage and she's going to give a tour of the office.
At least I think I am. You're there. I go this way, everybody. This is our hallway. It's not very impressive, but I wanted to bring in the front door. So I'm going to turn the phone around because it doesn't work on the other way this time. So this is the entrance to the office. And this is what's going on here right now. There's people, they're milling, there's cake. Everybody say hi. We got t-shirts, we got merch going out. Thank you. Okay. And this is Stacy sitting at Lisa's desk. And for those who wondered if this is real brick, it's wallpaper. Okay. In my office, we have the anatomic heart collection. And lots of fun photos and our Center of Excellence map. Strategic planning on that board. I don't want to take it off. Over here, we have Stacy's office, our Center of Excellence coordinator, with another map and photos. And then over here, we have Elena's office, and somebody's trying to call Elena right now. Somebody's calling you. Somebody's calling you on the phone. Over here's the conference room. Oh, everybody in the conference room say hi. We have a really big heart in the corner. Looks a little sad though. Okay, we're gonna go back over here. And this is Sarah's desk. Sarah, say hi. And then we go through our kitchen, which was newly renovated, and we're really happy. Just look, we got cute little heart handles on the doors. And then we come over here, and this is where we're going to hear about International tonight. Hi. Go this way. No, that way. Say hi. Manny, say hi to everybody. And in here we have the communications room. It's just Olivia over here. Erica ran away for a minute, but poor Olivia, she's been in PowerPoint hell. Give her some props and some love down below. Okay. And back here we have client services. Okay, client services represent. And they're back here. So now you've had a tour of the office. And I'm hoping that when we get done with this, we're going to go back to Ross sharing the PowerPoints. So Ross, come to the stage, turn your camera off, turn your PowerPoint on, and then I think you can present. And on that note, I hand it back, and we'll see who's going to do things next. Oh, nope, I don't want to do that. Somebody put me in the back room.
So I believe
Hi.
we have Juliana and Michelle coming on to the stage, and no, Ross is now sharing the screen.
Okay.
So yes,
Hello.
Juliana and Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Michelle Packard-Milam. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I'm a consultant contractor with HCMA, helping with the international outreach work. And with me is my colleague, Juliana Krim. Juliana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Juliana. I'm a Brazilian journalist. And I'm also, I work with Michelle as a coordinator for international. And I also represent HCMA here in Brazil to help raise awareness about HCM.
Juliana is based in Sao Paulo, so she's about 3 hours later than I am, I believe. So scheduling our meetings with the people in Australia and Europe are very exciting. Trying to get a time when people are not normally doing something like sleeping. Next slide, please. Actually, you can skip this one. We just did this one. So The global outreach process for HCMI has actually been going on a very long time. It became more of a formal program a couple of years ago. We are working to bring our content to patients and healthcare providers in multiple languages. We have already translated, thanks to Juliana and Sarah and some other people, a lot of our materials into Spanish, French, Portuguese, Swedish, Hungarian, and all of the EU languages are in progress. So we are working hard on that because it really helps if the nonprofits and the champions that we work with in a country are able to take existing content and adapt it. It moves things along much faster. So we get materials into the hands of the patients much more quickly. So we estimate that there are between 16 million and 33 million HCM patients in the world. And I'd have to say most of those people don't have access to the current information, medicine, or surgical options. They don't even know a lot about the diagnosis. And so our early efforts in these countries are typically to get the basic information. We have a poster, which I probably should have put a copy of here, that explains the disease, how it's diagnosed, what kinds of diseases there are in HCM, and what the most common treatments are. And then we adapt that to the country's healthcare system so that it's relevant for the people who receive it in that space. Next slide, please. We have established partnerships with organizations in Sweden, Australia, Brazil, actually working on our second one in Brazil, France, India, just signed, Italy, Mexico, and the European Union, with more to come. So we have quite a few others in progress, and I won't read the list to you, but you can see that we get a lot of outreach, and there are actually a lot more countries that have reached out to us to ask if there's something we can do with them than are listed here. We stay very open to opportunities when they arise, and we're quite flexible about how we achieve that. One of our best success stories is in Brazil, where we launched a program working in collaboration with a nonprofit called Instituto Lado. I'm not going to say it right. Juliana, can you talk about that program and say the name of the organization?
Yes, we've been working together with Instituto Lado a Lado pela Vida. That's translated to English is like side by side per life. And we've been working with a website, a webinar, and also making some profiles for some posts for Instagram and social media, so we can reach more people and raise awareness and make more people know about HCM symptoms and treatments and so on.
That's been a really great model for us to build, and I think we'll be able to duplicate a similar program where we translated our magazine into Portuguese. Actually, Juliana translated our magazine into Portuguese, and we brought in Portuguese patients, Portuguese physicians to be part of that. And she's been invited to several live events, and it's been a very exciting process. And that wraps up in April. But it's been going on for about 6 months. And I suspect we'll have other programs similar to that. If you know someone in another country that would like to help us get materials into the hands of patients and healthcare providers, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next, we're going to bring Julie Russo up to the stage to talk about volunteering. Here she comes. Welcome, Julie.
Well, here I am. Hello.
Hello.
Happy HCM Awareness Day, everybody. I'm glad to be here, and we're having a lot of fun in the open house, and let's get moving. Next slide, please. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of different things, but first, I am Julie Russo. I am the HCMA volunteer coordinator, and I'm also the legislative lead. We have many volunteer opportunities available through the HCMA. As you can see, the list here and anything from Health Equity Committee, which we had spoken about earlier today, Sarah had spoken about, to our online discussion groups that have been going on now for 4 years, and we do on average 13 groups a month and everything every month out of the year, and we have some wonderful volunteers, and we're always looking to increase the volume of our online discussion groups by bringing in some new discussion group leaders. So if anyone's interested, by all means, I would love if you reach out to me. Excuse me. We have our HCMA Ambassador Program, which is very similar to our Share Your Story program. And if you notice at the bottom of the list, that Share Your Story program has an asterisk on it, because technically, whenever we share a story, we're really touching on all of these groups. For example, if we're trying to pass a law in a state, everything, we might need a patient story, somebody to testify or somebody to talk to a newspaper and everything. That Share Your Story volunteer that lives in that state may be able to help us with that and everything. So it kind of touches on all of the different volunteer opportunities that we have. Next slide, please. One of the committees that we have is the Elizabeth T. McNamee Legislative Advocacy Committee. This is something, all the committees are near and dear to my heart, but this one here is something that I'm pretty passionate about, because we have a couple of initiatives that we're doing on the state level and a couple of initiatives, well, quite a few initiatives we're going to be doing on the federal level. First off, this year in 2025, we've had 26 states recognize HCM Awareness Day. 18 of those states are in perpetuity. And then we had some newbies this year that added on. And that's all thanks to our volunteers and our partners that have helped us achieve that, because typically it takes a constituent from that state in order to be able to get an Awareness Day proclamation or resolution. So we thank all of our volunteers for helping us with this. We also have our Children's Cardiac Safety Act. This is a statewide initiative for something that is currently, we've already got a law in New Jersey, or actually 3 laws together that make the Children's Cardiac Safety Act. And we are going to additional states. We have 7 active states right now, which are Virginia, Rhode Island, Minnesota, Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. If you notice the ones with the asterisks, Virginia, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, that's because we have bill numbers in those states. So they're making a little bit more progress, but the other states are coming soon. They're in bill draft mode, and hopefully we'll have some bill numbers coming out of those states in the near future. This past month and during Heart Month, we had legislative briefings, half-hour briefings that were for the upper and lower house representatives in each of these 7 states to explain to them what the importance is of the Children's Cardiac Monitoring Act and what they can do to help get it passed in their state. Later on in the program, Lisa's going to go through in a little bit more detail what the act entails and everything, but I want you to keep an eye out and stay tuned for a special announcement later in this webinar that Lisa will be telling everybody. So stay tuned for that. At the federal level, the HCMA staff and volunteers, not every staff member, I didn't last year, but I think I will be this year, are going to Washington, D.C. in April. We're going to be hosting a legislative briefing to members of Congress on April 9th. We're scheduling meetings with these members of Congress and senators to discuss issues that are important to the HCM community. We do still need volunteers. So if anybody is interested in joining us, by all means, reach out to me at julie@4hcm.org. And I'm glad to help you get hooked up with that. Next slide, please. The HCMA Ambassador Program, very similar to what I had said before and everything. They're similar to a Share Your Story volunteer, but they also kind of are similar to like a Facebook moderator, if you think about it. A Facebook moderator is going to make sure that the information that shows up on a private Facebook page is vetted, and that they're telling, and it's like being received well and everything, and that ambassador takes their private journey and they put it not just on a private Facebook group, but they put it out there on their regular feed, on their regular Facebook pages and Instagram and everything. And they talk about their journey, and they use vetted information. They've been trained to use the vetted information that's on our website so that they could give good advice and accurate information. So we have an amazing group of ambassadors, and they kind of took it from raising awareness through the power of social media to beyond that, because they took the ball and they ran with it. And now they're going to local churches, and now they're going to health fairs, and they're speaking out in public about HCM and creating awareness and telling their story. And just an amazing group of individuals. And we would love if you were interested to come and join the team and become an HCMA ambassador. Next slide, please. If you're interested in volunteering for the HCMA, there's a couple of steps that you have to do. First off, you have to fill out a volunteer application on our website, or you can email me at julie@4hcm.org. You'll complete a client intake and a navigation call if you are an HCM patient. And then you're going to complete an volunteer intake with me. So if you see, I've got these cute little pictures here and everything. You got your application, you've got the intake and the navigation call screenshot, and that's me. And that's typically what I look like when I wake up first thing in the morning. And you would get to be a volunteer coordinator, or sorry, you would get to do a volunteer intake with me, the volunteer coordinator. Next slide. I think I'm done. I forgot. If you are a volunteer, this is terrible. If you are a volunteer, we track your hours, and at the end of the year, typically it's not a January through December. It typically starts September 1st and it goes all the way through August 31st. We track your hours that you're volunteering, and then you're eligible for GEM Awards. GEM Awards can be anything from a social media frame for your Facebook page, all the way up to free passes to join us at the Unmasked Great Masquerader Ball. It says in October 2025 right there. Thank you very much for ever switch that slide, because I forgot to do that. And so it's definitely something that we want to show our appreciation for our volunteers, and the GEM Awards program is designed to do that. And I believe I am done.
Thank you so much, Julie. Next, we're going to go to communications and graphics, and we're bringing on stage Erica and Olivia from our team. Welcome.
It's a good sign for a communications manager. I'm Erica Freeman. I'm the communications manager, and I'm joining me today is Olivia Esposito. She's our graphics and visuals person. The communications team works to build. Do we have our Ross? Can you go to the next slide? And the next one. The communications team works to build HCMA brand and messaging. Communications written by me are shared on the website, on social media, flyers, promotional items, and our printed HCMA materials. And next slide, please.
And I'm Olivia. I handle all the digital and print projects for the HCMA. You might recognize some of these logos. I design all the logos, emails, posts, shareable materials for the HCMA. And with the help of Erica, next slide, we're able to put it all together. And
Right. Together.
and together we can. Erica helps out with all the copy, and I come up with the graphics.
And you've seen our materials, including some of the slides you're looking at right now. And that's it from the communications team. Back to you, Stacy.
Thank you so much. I believe next we're going to bring up our team from client services. Linda Montgomery, Maria, I'm going to botch your last name. I'm so sorry. And Sabrina, and who else are we bringing on? Artie. Sure. Please. Oh, everybody's almost here. We're missing Sabrina. Let me see if we can get Sabrina. Give us 1 second. Let's see if we can figure out how to get her here. There she is. Welcome, Sabrina. All right, Linda, I believe the show is yours.
Great. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I'm seeing during an open house.
Hey, everybody.
It's such a, like, she's doing it like a pro.
Well, I hear somebody in the background. Sorry. Good evening, everybody. This is Linda Montgomery. I'm the client advocate for the HCMA. and I'm here to talk to you tonight about client services, including our intake and navigation system. First, I'd like to introduce my awesome team. We have Sabrina Cuddy, who's our intake coordinator in California. We have Noreen Dolan, who is our nurse navigator in Massachusetts. And then we have our tag team up-and-coming stars, Maria Cuerva and Artie Patel.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Everybody on screen? There you go. Everybody who is physically here today. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the benefits of our client services? Well, we believe that the education, support, and advocacy that we supply to help you understand your diagnosis and then to navigate through the complex health plans and decisions is probably our best asset. You also get to talk with people like the founder of our company, nurse navigators like Noreen, and soon we will be having another RN join us. Her name is Amy Blair, and you will get to have time with these folks talking about your specific HCM. We also help you in becoming familiar with what is a COE, or Centers of Excellence, and why are they so darn important for your good health? You'll have the ability coming pretty soon to join an HCM patient journey registry. And of course, that will be optional, but something that you could take part in. We're also trying to draw attention to and have you start to reflect on your family's heart health history. To now, we don't think many people have done that. And as we learn more and research more, we find out just how important it is to know your family's heart health history. It does play a role. Another thing we do is your benefit is that you can learn about the HCMA committees, volunteer opportunities, and how to become an ambassador, as Julie was saying too. So how do you schedule an intake call? This one's pretty easy. We got you. Let's go to our website and click on the education and support bubble that we show there. And you'll see pictures of our intake coordinators, and you go online and you just pick whoever schedule works best with your schedule, and you're then set up for an intake call. Please be sure and read those email confirmations that you get after you're set up, because it contains some helpful logistic details that makes it better for both of us when we get on the call. So if you don't particularly like going online, you can always call the office and somebody will help schedule an intake call for you. Currently, we schedule from Monday to Friday, roughly 9 a.m. to probably 6 p.m. Eastern time. But soon, next quarter, we will be opening up the evening time in the Eastern area as well. So keep a watch for that. Next slide, please. So what do we collect during your intake call? So we collect your demographics, which is really just a fancy word for your age, your race, where you come from, all of that. Sometimes we'll collect your procedures, information about your doctors, some family history, and you can read them all there, but take note of the 3 that are asterisked. And if you would spend a few minutes before the call, just taking a look at those areas, it will save you and us time on the phone. I promise you that. So what will we ask for you to send in afterwards? So you can see the reports that we have up here, and we only want the reports. We don't want the images for this stuff, just the reports. And we would really appreciate it if you could send them in PDF format. When we get other formats, it costs us a lot of time and energy, and sometimes it causes us to have to send back to you and say, hey, you have to send us a PDF format. But we will try to help you and work with you. Next slide, please. So now we've done the intake call, we've got all of your historical data, we've got your current picture of where you are, and we've got your current imaging. and procedure data. So we're now set up to ship you on over to a navigation call. And in that call, you'll have all of that information for your nurse navigator to really have everything at her fingertips to best guide you on treatment options or best COEs to go to, and really just educate you a little bit more on your HCM and your family needs. And I'd say lastly, most importantly, and not just from your navigation call, what we really strive to do is to help you prepare to be your own best advocate. So for people, everybody is available and able to have, with no fees, your call once a year. If you happen to be an active paid member, you get additional time, you receive additional benefits for that, and you can have multiple calls per year. So in wrapping up, outside of our intake and navigation call, what other advocacy services do we have? So there's a lot listed there, health insurance, family planning, maybe some mental health, really anything that comes as a challenge to you as an HCM person. We will attempt to have some sort of advocacy service for you. So without anything else, I would just like to say on behalf of my awesome team that I mentioned, I would like to say thank you, and we really hope to see you in an intake call real soon. Have a great night.
Thank you, Linda. And if we could bring Ross up and our client services team down. Thank you, ladies. And now let's welcome the guy. Let's welcome Ross. And Ross, when we're done with your presentation, just an editing note here, we're going to go to my screen and you're going to put yours in full mode for the next session because we're seeing the top of your device here. Ross, it's yours.
Oh, can you see me? Yes,
We can see you, we can hear you. Welcome to the front stage.
All right, thanks. I usually hide in the back, so you have to forgive me. We've got people working in New Jersey. We've got people working in Wisconsin. We've got people working in California, all on this webinar. So, you know, it's the magic of technology that lets us be here. And sometimes it works really well. And sometimes, like all technology, it's a little bit funky. So I'm Ross Hadley. I'm the project manager for the HCMA. And I wear I'm the jack of all trades and the master of none because I support all of these activities that you've heard ahead of time. So those include client intake and navigation, constituent relation systems. So all our mailings and our automated things when you sign up for webinars, social media, trial recruitment, and more. And I also act as the webmaster and the systems administrator for our REDCap database for the research journey that we're working on. I also help evaluate new projects that are coming in to make sure that we have the ability to handle them and the resources that we need before we undertake something. And then on the other side, we wrap and do a debrief and find out how we can improve to serve the community better. And pardon the pun, I'm also an HCM patient, so hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is close to my heart. And I appreciate everything that Lisa and the team do for those of us that are patients, even though I'm well entrenched. So I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa and hide again. And and Lisa, you wanted me to stop share so we can.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to my screen, but you forgot two other places that this webinar is being brought to everybody from: Texas and Brazil.
Oh, Texas and Brazil, right?
How did you forget Texas and Brazil?
You know, it's because they didn't send me food like they promised. You know, I can be bribed, so.
Food will do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next. All right, I am now going to take on my role as anchor person. And let's get Ross to the backstage. And Juliana, I can't move to the backstage. And we're going to get serious for just a minute here because I do have some breaking news that is important. And Ross is going to drop a link somewhere, I think in the chat for this one. So this came out a couple of days ago, but I don't think a lot of people saw it. And it's a misleading headline. And this is literally breaking news. So pretend this is the 6 o'clock news running 18 minutes late. And I'm Lisa Salberg and I'm your host tonight. And the next few slides, I'm going to bring you some breaking news. That's pretty cool and not so cool. So there has been they call it a pacemaker recall at Boston Scientific. And these are the names of the models that are involved in the recall. These are not just pacemakers. They are CRT devices as well as pacemakers. So anybody who has a cardiac resynchronization therapy device, it also has a defibrillator in it. And there is a serious problem that you should be aware of. And we have the link on the bottom of the page here, but we are also going to drop a PDF that will tell you the serial numbers and the model numbers that are affected. So if you have one of these devices, please check the recall list. This is a serious recall. These devices are going into basically safety mode, which shuts them down from functioning and they cannot be restarted. So if you are pacemaker dependent, it is critically important that you speak to your electrophysiologist if you have one of these devices. There have been 832 injuries and 2 deaths associated with this recall. The original notification went out in December, but it just didn't seem to get any traction or attention. And then in the beginning of February, things started to move. And as we know, there's been some communication issues. I don't know that they were at all impacted this particular item. I don't think that they did, but there wasn't a lot out there until this week. So if you have one of these devices, please, please, please contact your electrophysiologist. And that ends our very serious message for tonight. Now to other breaking news. That's a little bit lighter. From Delaware, HCMA board member Bill Rodaus has secured Delaware's HCM Awareness Day proclamation, and she picked it up today. And this is a photo of her picking it up at the State House. Excuse me. I've been talking a lot today. Okay. Other breaking news coming in from Texas. Thank you to Rush Roberts, who has accepted the HCM Awareness Day Proclamation 2025 for the state of Texas. He also did this in 2024. Thank you, Russ, for your commitment to the cause. We appreciate you. And lastly, breaking news from Colorado. Bree has stepped up and one of our HCMA ambassadors has stepped up with a proclamation for the state of Colorado, recognizing HCM Awareness Day. Thank you so much to all of those who have stepped up to be champions for their state. We have a whole list coming later, but these are literally late breaking that came in the last 24 hours. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get to work for me. And we're going to talk about the state of HCMA 2025, which is a little bit more of a reflection back on 2024 and some hopes and dreams for what we hope to accomplish in the next year. If I went over all of it with you, we'd be here all night just hearing this stuff. So I'm giving you highlights. If you want more information on any project line or, excuse me, project line or any of our services, don't hesitate to call the office. You just met the amazing team here at the HCMA, and they are all here to provide you with great service. So I would be remiss as a founder of a nonprofit organization if I didn't kick off our Awareness Day with the request for donations. When you see all of the things that we have done and the team that we have assembled, we are really getting started on some very large scale projects. And it's going to take funding to bring all of these things to reality. So if you don't have the funds to give yourself, if you want to participate in a fundraiser or help us with a fundraiser, absolutely, we are here for you. And we're going to help you do what you need to do so that we can all be successful together. And hopefully next year on HCM Awareness Day, we'll be talking about how much more we were able to do thanks to your generosity. So our mission here at the HCMA has actually changed a very slight bit. Some of you may not notice it, but we have documented in our mission at a recent board retreat and ratified in our last board meeting, a new mission statement that includes our thick-hearted friends. So we will continue to provide support, advocacy, and education to patients, families, and the medical community, as well as the public, about HCM and all thick heart muscle disorders, while supporting research and fostering the development of treatments. It's a simple statement, but it says a lot, and it adds our thick-hearted friends. As many of you know, thick hearts are not always hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. They can be amyloidosis, sarcoidosis, Fabry's disease, Danon disease, HFpEF, restopathies, and others, Friedreich's ataxia. There are a great many diseases that can cause thick hearts, and the best place to figure out why your heart is thick is an HCMA recognized center of excellence. So today I'm going to stop and talk a little bit about some of our services. If you're on this webinar, and there's about 100 or so of you out there right now, and more will watch this after the broadcast, you've probably also seen our Big Hearted Warrior Tours. These are our webinar platforms where we partner with our Center of Excellence partners to provide you with great educational content from a variety of points of view in treatment and strategies. So if you have not ever seen a Big Hearted Warrior Tour, you can join them live and you can ask questions, or you can watch them after the broadcast. And they're available on our YouTube channel and soon to be embedded as we upgrade our video system. So they'll be all embedded in our website. As of now, we have 56 HCMA recognized centers of excellence. If you don't know how to find those, you go to the directory listing on our website and you can find those. I'll talk a little bit more about what those programs look like and are going to look like in the future. If you're familiar with the view behind me in this setup, then you've probably watched Tales from the Heart, which you can watch the podcast live when we record typically, or you can pick it up wherever you pick up your podcast and then you just get the audio. We've done over 150 episodes. It's been a lot of fun. It's been an evolution, and I hope to see more of you join me on the podcast to share your story, because your stories teach everybody. We're also very proud of our work with our partners on the HCM Academy, which is professional education and free CME courses. I'm still fighting the flu from January and I've got this cough. I'm so sorry. HCM Academy has engaged nearly 200,000 learners in 3 years. I'm super proud of the team. You'll hear more about them later, but it's Anjali Owens, Marty Marin, Steve Alman, and myself are faculty. The amazing team at PCM Scientific, Jude, Stephanie, and the rest of the team over there do a fantastic job of providing medical education to people worldwide. You heard from Linda and team, and Artie and Sabrina and Maria about our intake and navigation calls. Since I started this work in 1996, I've personally spoken with over 20,000 families. And over the past year, we've got about another 1,000 that we've added. So about 21 to 25,000. I didn't keep great count in the beginning. And we're taking about 1,000 phone calls a year. So thanks to the guys who are on the phone all day. And many of you have participated in our online discussion groups. We're going to be bolstering those in the coming year with more educational content as well as discussion. If you haven't joined one yet, we hope that you do so. Last year, we did a lot, and I'm going to kind of take this and show you what we did last year and what we're hoping to do this year. So we held our first Hill Day. We had a meeting in the Rayburn building. Thank you, Mikey Sherrill's office, for securing that for us last year and for this year. Last year, we kind of broke in our hill chops, and we learned our way around and how these events should be run. This year, it's going to be a different type of conversation. As you are probably all well aware, there's been some significant shifts and changes in DC, and we are nonpartisan. We just want good policies for people who have diseases that need to be cared for, and we want to make sure that our voices are heard and that our needs are being met by our government. So last year we went down, and we're going to go back in April. If you are interested in joining us in DC for Hill Day, to be on the team, you will have needed to have done an intake and navigation call as well as a volunteer intake. So we know a little bit about your story and what you're willing to share and what you're not willing to share. And you can come join us, and we'll be taking meetings with Hill members, so both the House and the Senate, to explain the needs of our community. If you're interested, please see Julie Russo, who will get you set up as a volunteer and make sure all of the things are done. We approved our 56th HCMA recognized Center of Excellence technically in January of 25, but I kind of like the number because I'm 56 and now we have 56 programs. We have a list of programs that are under development, and you will see some of those come to fruition in the coming year. We can't say exactly where yet because they've not completed the process, but stay tuned. There will be more care out there. Last year, we doubled our partners and our grants. we got better at what we do in terms of finding the right partners and finding the right funding sources. So to all of our funders and all of our sponsors, we thank you because we couldn't do our work without you. Last year, we held 10 webinars, including several with the Social Security Administration. And we're doing a live podcast or broadcast here while people are coming in my office. So if you see me looking off camera, it's okay. Come on and you can't be seen. Just keep the volume down. Hi, girls. Nice to meet you. Okay. So we did 10 webinars last year. We will do at least 14 webinars this year, as well as the in-person meetings that Stacy spoke about earlier. Last year, we did 50 episodes of the podcast. We'll probably do another 50 to 55 this year. Last year, we worked on international growth, and that will continue. So a lot of the things that we've done, we're going to continue to do and get better at it and build it up. And there's going to be a couple of new things coming as well. How are we getting these new things done? Mostly through our HCMA committees. So we started building committees about 2020, and we've been adding a committee about every 18 months until we get all of these core committees founded. So the legislative committee is named after Elizabeth T. McNamee. You'll hear a little bit more about her later. We have a medical affairs committee, a patient ed committee, a health equity committee. All are seated and all are working, and you're going to hear a little bit about some of the stuff that they're doing. We are adding a finance committee later this year. If you are interested in being on a finance committee, let us know. And then the last two will get probably in the next 2 to 3 years, we will get the COE review committee and our founding principles. It is very important that we get all of these committees seated and working well because I have a plan. And that plan is sustainability of the organization. I have been running the HCMA since 1996. Next year will be our 30th year of service. And in another 10-ish years, I am going to retire. So we need to build up the organization to be sustainable beyond the founder, which is a challenge. And I think this team is up for the challenge. And I think this community is up for the challenge. So I had a dream. Y'all helped me make it turn into a reality. And now we need to take that dream and turn it into a sustainable organization that will last the test of time. So if you want to be on a committee, we need intelligent, motivated people to join us. So you can, again, work with Julie and she can get you set up. Under our Health Equity Committee, we were able to put together a program called the All Hearts Collaborative, which is a health equity project. And its pilot will be done in the city of Newark, New Jersey, specifically within the South Ward. And we are partnering with the PCNA organization, Preventative Cardiovascular Nurses, BRIC Education Network, and the Zion Hill Baptist Church. We will be working through faith communities to talk to people about the importance of knowing one's family heart health history, and specifically looking for patients in the urban community that are Black and Latino, and they don't know about their family heart health history, and we want to teach them about HCM, amyloidosis, and uncontrolled hypertension as a starter. Once we get the wheels on that train, we may add additional content, and we're super happy to be working with an amazing community group, both the facility, BRIC Education Network, and the community members themselves who have showed up at a number of meetings and focus groups to share their insight with us. So we're super excited to get that going. And I know Sarah talked to you a little bit about that earlier. A big shout out of thanks to the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, which is actually our first foundation funding that's outside of pharma or biotech in any way. So thank you to the New Jersey Health Foundation for believing in our vision. And then once we got that funding rolled around, BMS, Cytokinetics, Pfizer, BridgeBio, and Atlantic Healthcare System jumped in to provide additional support. So this is going to keep growing, and hopefully we will be able to bring this around the country. So if you're interested in being a champion for the All Hearts Collaborative in your community, these are things we can talk about. So volunteer expansion. If you want to be on a committee, if you want to be an ambassador, if you want to support public policy initiatives, if you want to be a community volunteer with in-person events, fundraising, and sharing your teachable moments with our partners, these are what volunteers do. And these are what make HCM more palpable and understandable to those who don't live with it or don't see it very often. So we've done a lot of focus group meetings with industry to make sure that the people working to provide us with therapeutic options really understand who we are as people. And we humanize each other and we build a network of support and develop an ecosystem that is all focused in the same direction. So I talked earlier about the Center of Excellence model. So the top map is what is done. The bottom map is what is not done yet. And you'll see that there is a hovering pink icon in Canada. We've just been struggling a little bit with how to certify is not the right word, recognize is a better word, but international programs have slightly different modeling. So we're still trying to figure out how to do that, but I suspect our friends in Toronto will be on a map very soon. And then the other programs, you can see them smattered around the map, and we go up to Alaska, out to Hawaii, Southern California, Midwest, other places in Texas, Alabama, new locations in Florida, and more. So it is not stopping. It is continuing to grow. And Stacy's going to be busy, but we need the care out there for the patients who don't have access. These are our full list of Center of Excellence programs, and the hearts and the highlights are the ones that we've added recently. So WellStar, Virginia Mason, University of Washington, Hopkins, Piedmont should be, oh, Piedmont should get a star too. Sorry, Piedmont in Atlanta. You didn't have a formal launch yet. So surprise, guess what's coming? This is all of our logos. And if you look at each one of those logos representing a center of excellence, and you think of how many patients are served by that one logo, it's pretty astonishing that we have been able to build a network where none existed before. Stay tuned for some other network development that I can't quite speak about yet, but if we're capable of doing this, I got some surprises for you guys coming in the next 18 months. Hang in there. If you are looking at that map and thinking, I can't afford to get to one of those centers, but I'd love to. If you have financial need and you need to be evaluated by a center of excellence after you have been diagnosed with HCM, the HCMA is here to provide a travel grant of $599.99. If we go over $600, we have to give you a 1099, and we don't want to do that because that's just more paperwork. So we keep it at $599.99. You can use this scholarship to pay for train tickets, plane tickets, hotel rooms, food on the road, gas money, anything you need to get from A to B to get there. You can also use it if you transition to hospice care for a one-time payment. You can use it for transplant care. So if your center of excellence is not a transplant program, you can use it to get to a transplant program, and families can submit for end-of-life funeral arrangements for one-time payment as well. If you would like to donate to the Lori Fund, funds donated to the Lori Fund go directly to the Lori Fund. HCMA takes a small processing fee when we process a grant. It's like, I think 18 or 20%. And we put that in the bank for processing. But the rest of the money goes directly to the patients. So if you want to donate, you scan the one over on the right. If you want to apply, you scan to the left, or you can visit the website. You heard from Juliana and Michelle earlier about some of our international endeavors, and I'm super proud of the expansion that we're making. I will be going to Sweden next month for a meeting there. The European nation, Emil is doing a great job building up some content for Europe and an understanding of how different each European nation, country is. Brazil, you met Juliana, she's leading the charge there. France, India, and our dear friends in Australia and New Zealand. Shout out to Lee, doing a fantastic job down there. And we're just establishing relationships in Mexico. So we should have that nailed down in the next couple of months. Now, what does a center of, or what does an HCMA international program look like? We're looking to build patient advocates, KOLs, so key opinion leaders, and our industry partners. We have material, they can put it in their native language and customize it for their nation. Why rebuild something that's already built? Let's just modify it for the country. And let's get patient advocates on the ground in every country, helping improve the care of those with HCM worldwide. I'm excited about this program. Okay. Our annual report is now available on our website, and we had a very, very good year. We've been in a growth phase. We've been adding staff, as you've seen. And our annual report tells you a little bit about how we spend our money and what we do. We are very transparent. If you want to know anything, it's all out in the public. You know where our money is going. You know where every dollar is being spent. And you can break it down here, what we're getting in and where it's going to. Our most expensive acquisition is the people that we hire. And that's a good thing because we're hiring good people. Travel and conferences are a little pricey. Professional contracts and services takes to run an organization, software, expenses, printing, marketing, and advertising. We don't spend a lot on marketing. Most of our marketing is organic on social media. So thankfully, we don't have to spend a lot of money there. But as you can see, our income has increased exponentially, as have our services over the past 5 years. So post-COVID timeline has been very good to us, but we've been very, 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 very busy getting amazing work done and helping bring this ecosystem together. So looking into the future, we were hoping to have it done by today, but I have a couple of papers to submit. We are getting IRB approval on our patient registry. So many of you who have called the office over the years, we take information down, you share it with us readily. And that information has basically been sitting in a computer, only helping us design programs, and it doesn't really get out of the office very much. So with IRB approval, we can start to publish on this material, and we will be doing some retrospective analysis of what the data set looks like, which hopefully you'll be seeing by the end of the year. And then we'll be reaching out to you throughout the year to consent you into our prospective registry, which you can share your electronic medical records with us, not quite yet, coming soon. And we can help you organize your records, understand them at a deeper level, and then you can choose to participate in research prospectively. So stay tuned for more information on that. We've got a big October coming up. So as much as we went crazy through Heart Month and to do an event like this, we're going to go a little crazier in October. We're going to have our annual meeting October 18th. That's during the day. We're going to have our Unmask the Great Masquerader gala that evening. And the next morning, we're going to hold a 5K, our first ever big-hearted 5K walk, run, or volunteer. So it's going to be a busy weekend. We hope that you can travel in and be part of it. And we have some ideas for fundraising for those of you who might not have disposable income to show up at a meeting like this and fly across country. We have partnerships with organizations that might be able to help with flights. And we also want to help you raise the money to get here through our peer-to-peer fundraising campaign where you can fund yourself coming in. We'll be providing information on that in the coming weeks. You've heard from a couple people tonight about our in-person meetings that are going to be around the country. So we'll be in Seattle, Orlando, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. Stay tuned for those events. And we'll be at a number of cardiology conferences this year, including ACC the end of March, European Society in Madrid in August, Heart Failure Society, September, and American Academy of Pediatrics. See, that's a crossover weekend, so we'll be a lot of people. Any volunteers in Denver or Minneapolis will probably need some hands on the ground. And then we'll be back at the American Heart Association in November. And hopefully next year, International Summit 9. That hasn't been announced yet, but I think it's going to be next year in 26. So here are the next events coming up. If you're interested in participating in Hill Day, stay tuned. You're going to start seeing a lot of information come out starting like next week. And then April 26th will be in Orlando. Here's the save the date for the meeting. This is what our last meeting looked like in New Jersey. We can't wait to have you all come out again. We love Morristown. It's one of my favorite places, and you'll have a great time and you'll learn a lot. This is the 5K. How do you like our little Mr. Big Hearted? And he's going to probably end up being the mascot for the event. We need a mascot suit. We got to get that made. So keeping families whole one step at a time is going to be the tagline for the Big Hearted 5K. So what is on the horizon? You can look forward to us doing expanded work in the area of mental health services and developing a network that works for our community. It's early days, but we have an amazing partner that we have. I've known him for almost 30 years, and we found the project to work on, and stay tuned for more information on that. Health economics in HCM, it is not a sexy, fun issue to talk about. It's a problematic area for all of us. And we need to start evaluating not only the health economics of the individual, but the health economics of the families living with genetic heart disease that is generational in nature. So we're going to be looking at numbers a little bit differently. We're going to be evaluating what the true burden is on families with HCM. And it's going to be something that we need to start talking about a little bit more loudly and specifically. I mentioned the HCMA patient journey. So we hope that you all agree to participate in that to whatever level you're comfortable. And again, we need to build a sustainable organization that continues to meet and exceed the needs of the community. We have pretty high standards here and we like to deliver at the highest level possible while being factual, scientifically accurate, and empathetic to your space in the HCM journey. You all come to us from a slightly different point of view, slightly different experience with HCM, and we will continue to provide services for you in that space and in that hope that we can just continue to be better and more encompassed in our offerings. And the other thing on the horizon is hope, good health, and great partners. There is so much happening in the HCM community today that is positive, that is productive, and that is improving the lives of those with HCM around the world. And we continue to be in awe of some of our scientific partners. There's things that we haven't been able to talk to you about yet, and it's going to be another couple of months or maybe a year before some of this stuff becomes public. But there's exciting advances on the horizon, and I encourage you to all stay in touch with us as we move down this journey. So I pulled some of my favorite photos from this year's annual meeting. And Lisa was here in the office a little while ago and just left. For those who don't know, this is Lisa. She also is from New Jersey and had a heart transplant. And she was able to reconnect with her donor family. And this is the grandmother of her heart recipient listening to her heart at the HCMA event on Saturday night at the summit. So that's a beautiful photo. We've got Elena and Olivia up here, our friend from Cytokinetics. Gwen, if you've been part of any of the discussion groups on mental health, Gwen has been doing a fantastic job running those for us. Steve Alman and Marty Marin. The co-chairs of our medical affairs committee meeting could not be with us tonight. Marty has a video. We weren't able to get Steve on video this year, but we thank them for everything they do for us all year long. And then there is the dream team. We could not get anywhere without not only a fantastic board of directors giving us direction and focus, but an amazing team of individuals sharing their skills, abilities, and talents with us, whether they're interns, whether they're contractors, whether they're full-time staff. Everybody on this team carries their weight every single day and goes above and beyond. And some people even evolve into skill sets that I never dreamed that they would be taking on. And I never would have thought that Julie would become a policy wonk, but it happened and she's loving it and she's doing such a fantastic job at it. So shout out to change and evolution. And my husband finally made it here after a flat tire. Hey, babe. So I'm live right now. So yeah. We have an amazing team and I couldn't do any of the things that I do without every single one of them. And I hope you all take a moment to really appreciate what they do for you every single day. Okay, this is our bigger slide and our sponsors, Cytokinetics, Edgewise, Rocket, BMS, Tenaya, Viz AI for this year. And we have some additional ones coming in. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Your financial contributions make all of this happen. And we wouldn't be able to do it without you all. I also want to give a shout out to our friends that I did not put on here, but partnerships are important. And last year, I was honored to get an award from a group called BioNJ. And during that event, I got 700 people from the biotech industry in New Jersey sitting in the audience, and I have 3 minutes to talk to them. So, you know, you're going to put in an ask. And I suggested that the biotech industry practice what it preaches and start giving their staff days off for clinical trials. And they kind of looked at me like, huh, what are you talking about? I'm like, practice what you preach. You want people to participate in clinical trials, make it easier for people, give them time off from work and don't count it against their vacation time or sick time. Because if they're fighting a disability or an illness, they need their sick time and they need their vacation time. So give an extra 2 or 3 days off per year so that people can participate in clinical trials. Well, it resonated with BioNJ so much so that in October, they took it on as their own personal mission. And as of right now, we have 9 companies in the state of New Jersey who have vowed to include clinical trial days off in their days off policy from work. So if you have an employer and your employer has a community service or volunteerism day, make sure that clinical trial participation is included in the time off opportunities. And maybe you can get a little extra time off to participate in the next clinical trial that you're interested in. So shout out to BioNJ and we appreciate you. and all of our partner organizations. We do a great deal of work with Patch and Women Heart and PCNA and so many other wonderful organizations. We thank you all for your partnership all year long. And I could not stop talking on this day without the, nope. We want to go back. We want to go back. I got to go back. Hold on. We're just going to stop that for a minute. I need to thank my organ donor, Brandy, and her family. Without an organ donation, I would not be here today. So when you stop and think, what does it mean to be an organ donor? What does it mean to be a recipient? My sister Lori was a donor and I a recipient. I can assure you that a donor family feels joy for the recipient. And I feel gratitude for a donor family. It's a beautiful circle. And please let your family members know your wishes on organ donation. It's critically important. So with that, I'm going to move into the next part of our little adventure here. And I'm going to play this slide from our friends at Cytokinetics. And then I'm going to go backstage for just a minute while you listen to this video.
Started to limit my strength training activities, so specifically organized exercise. And I don't think that was on purpose. Just as I was going through teams, I would take a lot of breaks. And so I myself now just allowing myself to take breaks during long workout. I was ready to do 25 years in the Army when I got diagnosed with HCM. Everything fall apart. I have to retake my life.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I understand I have a problem because I did the thing that I told everybody not to do, and that is do slide share without the sound on. I'm going to replay the Cytokinetics video. Here we go. I'm going to go back to the beginning. And I'm going to put myself on mute.
I started to limit my strength training activities, so specifically the organized exercise. And I don't think that was on purpose. Just as I was going through my regular routines, I would need to take a lot more breaks. And so I limit myself now just allowing myself to take breaks during, an hour-long workout.
I was ready to do 25 years in the Army when I got diagnosed with HCM. Everything fell apart. I have to retake my life. I have to do something different. I'm no longer the tough soldier that go do deployment and stuff like that. I'm not that person anymore. I need to, see that I'm vulnerable, that I need some help. That's the moment that I realized that I need to, get out of that bubble and keep my life, keep moving forward.
I'm, for all intensive purposes, a very healthy looking individual, accomplishing a lot. And to have symptoms that were affecting my daily life, it's not normal to be blacking out. It's not normal to not be able to walk upstairs and, not get dizzy.
Knowing what I know now about myself, my life, my support, I would have told myself at the time of diagnosis that it really is going to be okay.
Thank you to our friends from Cytokinetics for that beautiful piece. And a great number of the patients you saw there are members of this community who took the call to action to share their story with industry. And we made the connection and helped their voice be heard at the loudest possible level in their own way. Okay, Ross, I am going to stop screen share and I am going to have you send up Michael Ayers, and we are going to play some games now. We are going to play a trivia game, and you all are going to have to log in, get your phone. And hello, Michael Ayers.
Hello.
Loving the purple. I'm on a red day, but purple's my color.
I do the best I can. I got on red socks if it helps you.
If you want to wear red socks with a purple suit, I love your fashion choices.
My 3-year-old daughter picks out the socks, so it's really a gamble every morning.
That could be really risky, Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, why
Yeah.
don't you tell our viewers where you're from and a little bit about the program at UVA?
Oh, I would love to. So I am the center director for our Center of Excellence at the University of Virginia. I started here 5 years ago, and I initially co-directed with Chris Kramer, who's taking over as president of the American College of Cardiology. And I've been able to take over the last 2 years as solo director, and it's been very exciting. Under Lisa's support and guidance, we've really grown. We're almost at 2,000 patients in our center now. We hired another genetic counselor. We hired a 4th clinical research coordinator. We've got 10 trials we're in and investigator-initiated studies that are sponsored by various people from Cyto to BMS to Viz.ai. We just hired an exercise physiologist that sees patients with us in clinic. We are moving and shaking at UVA, and we would love to have you. So,
Wow, that's impressive. So it wasn't your cardiology prowess that I asked you to be my co-host for this part of this show today. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your career before you went into medicine?
sure. If you ever want to guarantee that your medical school interviews do not ask you a single question about medicine, here's what you do. You go to a different ACC school than where I am now. I went to Duke, and you major in theater studies. And then you spend 3 years doing musicals in New York City. And then you get Jeff Daniels and Tommy Toon to write your letter of recommendation. Did I ever tell you that? They made
I know
somebody
Jeff
you were-
Daniels. I did not know Tommy Toon.
Yeah, they made somebody you were working with. And I wrote them a letter and said, I don't think you really want my co-employees to be writing my letter of rec. And they were like, no, that's the rule. And then literally all anyone wanted to talk about on any one of my interviews was my letter of rec and my theater background. So that is me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Ross, can you bring up our Cahoots game and let's get everybody logged in. I didn't go live on social. Where's Ross? Can somebody go find? I don't know. I don't know where my game is. Can somebody find out what's going on with Ross?
And
Technical
then-
difficulties. Please stand by.
And then explain to us how this Cahoots is going to work for us
So,
less savvy folks, just if there were some.
If there's less savvy folks, so you're going to be getting a link in a minute that you can then join the game when we actually can go live, but we're having a little technical difficulty because, it's a live webinar. And then you're going to be able to get the game and you're going to answer questions. And they're all kind of about awareness and advocacy related to HCM, obviously. Nothing too technical. Couple trick questions. And whoever answers the most correctly, the fastest, is going to win a prize. That prize will be announced at the end of this event because nobody ever actually told me what the prize was going to be. I don't know. Where's Ross?
And if I had to add a rule, I would say to all those listening, Lisa will serve as judge, jury, executioner, and rewarder for all questions. So whatever she says goes.
I like that. Can we just
Yeah.
have that rule everywhere all the time?
Don't we? I thought we did.
I don't know, because I don't think the insurance companies know that they shouldn't mess with our people when they try to put them through step therapy and copay accumulators and all that nonsense. So I need the rule book for that.
Is that getting any better for you, Lisa? The copay stuff?
Some states yes, some states no. I just heard of a nightmare case where after somebody was on a drug for 2.5 years and stable, they're like, yeah, you don't need that drug anymore. You need the old generic drug and we're not going to give you the other drug anymore. And I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And we got him back on therapy. Okay, so that's not working so good. And Ross is having a problem. So I'm going to have to see if I can't get into cahoots. And this is going to be really scary because I don't know what I'm doing here.
I will tell you, Lisa, while you're doing that, from my perspective, the insurance stuff has gotten better. So I don't know if that's thanks to the work of you and yours, but overall, we're getting fewer and fewer of the denials, fewer and fewer peer-to-peers, fewer and fewer. Did you try an 8th beta blocker before switching them messages? So it's getting better on this end.
That is really good to hear. And I think I found this. Oh, wait, did Ross found it? Yay, Ross. Okay. But I have it too, Ross, and I just started it on mine. Can you get a PIN number? There we go. I'm going to close mine and we're going to use yours. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to go to kahoot.it, or you're going to use the QR code on the screen right now. Dan and Allie and Rosemary and Liz and Casey. Okay, we got people playing. Let's get some more people in and playing. We got to get people in to be populated. Elena's here. So all of you people at home, Angie's here. Keep coming. Whatever name you want. Lakeisha, Artie, hey guys. Great to see you all. Scott, come on in. It's going to be fun. Stacy, Liv, Allie, Val.
I see some people in our waiting room that haven't logged in yet, Lisa.
So the waiting room people, yeah, they'll get there. They're
All right.
PNK, okay. So we're starting to get, come on, we got 100 people online and I got 25 people here in the office. Let's get those names on this screen. Let's have some fun. Mary and Terry, because once we start, you're not going to see the QR code. Here we go. We got some real competition here now. All right, 25, 26, here we go. You're getting it, people. I'm so proud of you all. It's going to be fun, I promise. Okay, Michael Ayers, what was the strangest question anybody asked you in your med school interviews because of your unique letters?
Well, one of them asked why Jeff Daniels wrote the letter the way he did. So what he did is he went to the website and he copied these are interesting things to ask about or to explain about if you're writing a letter of rec. And he copied all of them and then he pasted them into a letter. And underneath, he wrote like 2 sentences on each one of them. And they wondered if I had given him the directions to do that. And I was like, nah, Jeff just did that all on his own.
Okay, well, props to Jeff Daniels. And if Jeff ever wants to do a PSA for us, we will accept.
Oh, I will let him know.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you. All right, so we've got 36 people on board. We're going to give it one more minute and then we're going to start Ross. Actually, we're going to give it 30 seconds because it's 7:01 and we got a lot of stuff coming up. We got to get through this. Okay, so as we go through each question, Michael and I will be able to have a little discussion with you on why we asked that question, why it's important, because I think you'll all figure it out. On our mark, get set. 36 of you are playing the game and let's go. Hit the start button, Ross. Here we go. The real one. That's because I put that name on because we were doing a sample. Okay, here's the quiz. I'm going to read it out loud. What is the estimated number of diagnosed individuals with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy currently in the United States? Is the number between 1 and 10,020, 1 million and 1.3 million, 150,000 to 300,000, and nobody's been diagnosed with HCM? Make your choices now. Michael, what are you thinking about this one? What do you think the diagnosed? Not how many people have it, but how many have been diagnosed?
So I thought this was such a great question for you because when I was doing it, I very quickly skirted through the question and I missed, because I didn't get this bolded version, the diagnosed part, which I think is what you wanted for this question.
That is what I wanted. And thankfully, nobody answered. Nobody's been diagnosed. So congratulations for not getting the trick question. To those who said between 150 and 300,000, that is the number. However, that blue number is our goal. We want to get to between 1 million and 1.3 million in the United States. And as you can see, we've got a long way to go. Mike, tonight we're going to be talking about some opportunities to show and to improve diagnostics. Whoop, don't do that, Ross. I don't know what it was, but it didn't like it. We got a long way to go here.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating story, right? So when we look at imaging studies where they just indiscriminately will do imaging on a large swath of the population, independent of symptoms, what you find is multiple areas around the world have done studies like this, and the number's always around 1 in 350 people qualify for an HCM diagnosis. Some as low as 1 in 250, some as high as 1 in 500. It's somewhere in that ballpark. But then when we pull ICD-10 codes, which is how your doctor is coding diagnoses in the electronic medical record, what you see is rates closer to 1 in 3,000 patients carry a diagnosis, which if you do some quick mental math means 9 out of every 10 HCM patients are walking around without a diagnosis. Then if you look at papers done by people like Anjali Owen, who you guys will be meeting later, what you see is most of these folks are seeing 2 to 4 cardiologists over a period of 5 to 6 years from symptom onset before finally getting labeled. Then you look at studies where you look at referrals to centers, and 1 in 7 people being referred for HCM are having a diagnosis change. So this is misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, and delayed diagnosis. So we have big work to do, and we're hopeful that some AI instruments and some awareness are going to really help us with that. What an awesome question, Lisa. I love it.
Thank you so much. Ross, next question, please. I'll do the reading because I kind of know what they say, I think. Oh, let's see how we did. Oh, Liv, Allie's husband, Elena, Jack, and I think it's peanut butter and jelly lover. I don't know, PB lover.
I love it.
We are doing, okay. Liv, you're in the lead. Next. Quiz number 2. How many states currently have laws requiring cardiac components to the well child examination? 1, 2, 24, or 1.75? This is a trick question, admittedly, by the numbers. So let's, there might be a slight hint on the screen, but I'm not going to let it all fall out until a little bit later tonight. So what do we think? 1, 2, 1.75, or 24? How many states? Okay. I gotcha. So for those of you who answered 2, by tomorrow, you might be right. But right now, the answer is 1.75 because there is a state that has passed legislation through their House and their Senate and awaits a governor's signature. And I don't want to jinx it, but all we're waiting for is that governor's signature in one state. And if I get any hot updates while we're live, I will let you know if they update the website from that state and notify us that it's been passed. But we'll give you a little hint later on tonight. But we're
Lisa,
hoping.
You don't always just outline the state where I am?
No, I do not always outline the state where you are, but that was, as it turns out, potentially a little hint on where we're heading later.
Okay.
So I don't really have a lot to talk about here, except for the fact that the ball is now rolling in our well child inclusion program called the Children's Cardiac Safety Act, which improves pre-participation screening physicals, which improves well child examinations to include important questions about family heart health history. We'll be talking a little bit more about that tonight. I wish that those 13 people who answered 24 were correct. It's going to take us probably another 2 to 3 years to hit that 24, but that is where we want to be. We want to be all over the country in the next few years. And if you want to help, we can get you to work on how you can help us make that happen. Ross, let's see who did the best on that one. And then let's go to the next question. Okay, Liv and Jack. Jack, are you getting information from Liv? I'm going to check on that one. Patty and Elf are jumping up. Sarah's on the leaderboard. This is looking exciting. And let's go to the next question. What is included in the Children's Cardiac Safety Act? Language to improve AED coverage, response, and freedom from liability, including the elements of the pre-participation screening physical to all well-child exams, improving the pre-participation screening physical process for student athletes, or all of the above. So this has been discussed a few times tonight. I hope you got enough content to be able to answer this question correctly. And if you are interested in helping us, you know Julie's the person you need to reach out to. We've got 2, 1, and all of the above is the correct answer. So for you who answered, it improves AED coverage, response, and freedom from liability, you're right. To those who said including the PPE into the well child, you're right. But it also does the improvement of the pre-participation screening exams to make sure that we have a unified form per state. Michael, how important is it to ask families about their family heart health history in a well child examination?
I think it is so important because it is free information that families need to be invested in learning that is just right there for the taking to help us save lives.
Right there. All we want to do is facilitate a conversation. Ross, let's see who's still on the top of the leaderboard. Oh, Jack took over Liv. Allie's husband is coming close up there. Elf, Scott. We've got some movers and shakers there. Remember, the faster you answer the question, the more points you get. Okay, next question. I like this. This is fun. What are the most common misdiagnoses identified in those with HCM before their HCM diagnosis? A heart murmur, anxiety, athletically induced asthma or other forms of asthma, or again, all of the above. Would I put all of the aboves in a row? Michael, why do we want to know about misdiagnosis? What could this do to help us diagnose?
Yeah, so the biggest one that we're missing, well, there's kind of two when you look at big studies, is over measurement of the heart muscle, which man, then you're in a totally different risk category if you're not a thick heart muscle at all. Or 2, amyloid, which has a totally different treatment paradigm and life prolonging therapies. So I love the HCMA's push to cover all thick hearts and help all thick hearts, because there is a lot that we can do for these phenocopies or mimics of HCM.
Okay, so congratulations. Most of you picked all of the above. The murmur, yes. The anxiety, yes. But the athletically induced asthma is very, very common as well. And if you have any form of asthma and a murmur, please get your heart checked. Critically important. Let's see that leaderboard, Ross. Jack, you're doing good. I'm impressed. Liv is in second. Allie, Elf, Scott. All right, let's get on to that next question. Is it more common to have obstructive or non-obstructive HCM? This is a true false. So obstructive, known as HOCM, obstructive HCM or OHCM, or non-obstructed, also known as HCM without obstruction, or NHCM in some of the recent files. Oh, we got a long time to go on this one. So we can't give away the answer yet, Michael, but is it important for patients to know the difference in themselves, whether they're obstructed or not?
This is probably the most important thing to get right after you have the diagnosis correct early on in the treatment course, because right now the treatments for these two different subtypes are in almost diametric opposition, right? One people we're going to be diuresing, the other we're giving fluids to. One do okay with beta blockers and calcium channel blockers. The other we're starting to question the role of beta blockers and calcium channel blockers. One has CMI approved, the other doesn't have CMI approved. One you can get surgery for, the other surgery is much more experimental at this stage. So again, diametric opposition. You've gotta get this right.
So interesting results here. The answer, it just went out in the true false. It is obstructive is the more common physiology, non-obstructive less so. 75 up to 75% of patients with HCM will obstruct with provocation, so a stress test or Valsalva or walking up a hill or stairs. That'll provoke that obstruction. So 70 to 75% are obstructed and the remainder are non-obstructed. Interesting. Okay, let's see that leaderboard, Ross. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, Jack, I'm impressed, Jack. Okay. Okay. And Elf just jumped way up there, and Allie's back on the board. Angie's up here. Val is up here. We got some new names up on the leaderboard, and Liv, you kind of fell off. Okay, next question. Okay. After diagnosis, what risk factors are evaluated for sudden cardiac arrest prevention in HCM? Wall measurement of 3 or greater, family history of sudden cardiac arrest of a family member. I will add in under 55-60, 15% scar in the left ventricle measured by MRI with contrast, an apical aneurysm, or all of the above. So when we look at risk factors, Michael, in HCM, I'm talking about what should be evaluated, but how often should risk factors be evaluated in a patient with HCM?
So some of these risk factors are continually evaluated. We are continually looking at how thick the heart is every year or every other year with echo. We are continually looking for presence of apical aneurysm with the echo. We're continually following up with our families, making sure people have been genetically screened, hearing and updating the family history with respect to sudden cardiac death. And I might add appropriate defibrillations, which frequently gets missed. Right? No one's died suddenly, but my cousin's been shocked a few times, or my brother's been shocked a few times appropriately. And then the trickiest one here is MRI. We don't really know what to do with this yet. We're going to get a lot more information from the HCMR registry that's coming out soon, that's looking at how CMRs changed through time with HCM patients. My practice is usually in the 2 to 4 year range. The guidelines give some wiggle room and say kind of 2 or 3 to 5 year range. This is a to be determined area. And so MRI's moving target. The other ones are continual assessment.
I always like the to be classification because it's like to be or not to be. We don't
That's
quite
right.
know. Okay, so Ross, let's see that leaderboard. And y'all got it right as, or no, I think a couple of you just got a few of them, but oh, Jack's on fire. Jack is definitely on fire. Elf is catching up. Elf is definitely catching up. Okay, so now let's go to the next question. We're rounding up. We got just a few more. In families with known diagnosis, how often should children be screened for HCM with an echocardiogram? Every 6 months, every 1 to 2 years, every 3 to 5 years, once is fine. And there is not an all of the above here, so you really need to stop and think here. So we're talking about young kids to adolescents to full growth. How often should they be getting screened? This is one of the reasons earlier tonight I talked about health economics. This can get a little expensive for families after a few years of doing this. And congratulations to 21 of you. You got it right. Every 1 to 2 years, your children should be screened during that really important time, from maybe some families as early as 7, 8, others up to 10, 12, and then every 1 to 2 years till full growth, which could be up to your mid-20s, depending upon the individual. Michael, any comments on family screening and the importance?
I just love that no one in the group picked once is fine, because the number of times I hear patients and their families say, oh, they were screened, as in past participle, past tense, happened, the end, we're done.
Yeah.
Breaks my heart. Particularly in puberty, we find a small subset, typically of genotype positive patients, that can have accelerated increase. I called Lisa about one recently that was screened at 15, was told, you're fine. And then at age 18 had a 2.4 centimeter septum. So again, rapid acceleration can be seen in puberty. And even though that's the exception to the rule, every 1 to 2 years, and honestly, in my practice, every year, if they're going to play competitive sports, you got to be following these families.
Fantastic. Ross, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, Jack is holding on to his lead. Allie, Val, Kevin's on the board now, and these points are looking impressive. Let's go next. True or false? Dum, dum, dum. True or false? Has gene therapy trials already dosed over 3 people with MYBPC3? Has this occurred? We know that there are some trials out there, but what has actually been happening? Have they dosed people? Have they not dosed people? Gene therapy is all buzz these days, and we're learning a lot about the science. And 19 of you know that yes, over 3 people have been dosed by the protocol from Tenaya Therapeutics on their AAV9 gene therapy for MYBPC3. It is early days. Michael, any comments on gene therapy?
It's very exciting. It's tricky. The heart does not like to take up information from the outside world. It doesn't like to accept new genes. And so finding the right dose of this particular vector or delivery device is hard. Too much, you get inflammation, you get something that can look like flu or worse. Too little, the heart doesn't take up the gene. So we're trying to find this Goldilocks zone, but I'm optimistic this is the future. We just got to figure out how to do it safely and then how to do it affordably for, as you pointed out, 1 million people out there with HCM, not all of whom have MYBPC3, but a lot of patients.
And other gene therapies are coming. Ross, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Oh no, Jack, you're out of first place. So now we've got Val and Ang and Kevin taking up. But Val, you got a pretty consistent lead here. Okay, next question. Dun, dun, dun. Quiz question. What year did the HCMA begin its work? 1994, 2001, 1996, 2020. So we had, I can't say the answer to this one. We had a gentleman come by today that I have not seen or talked to in a great long while. And we went into the file room and we found his original files and they were dated 1998. See, I dragged that one out for a while. Yes, the HCMA was formed in 1996, and it was just a few months after my sister Lori passed away in June of 1995. So the work began in 95, but we became incorporated as a 501c3 in February, Heart Month, 1996. So next year, there won't be a really big celebration for Heart Month because it'll be our 30th anniversary. Ross, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Dun, dun, dun. Elf is in 3rd place. Kevin is in 2nd place. And dum, 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 dum. Ange is first. Wow. You took off there. So runners up are Val and Allie. Congratulations. And we're going to have you, I don't know how to validate who you are, but you are going to win a $50 gift certificate to the HCMA's merch store. So you can pick out your own prize. And if you have any problem getting in touch with us, just call the office and tell us who you were, and we'll ask you a few more questions to confirm it. I think there's a way for us to figure it out on the back end. So, Michael, that was a lot of fun. I appreciate you being here. We'll probably do more of these in the future once we figure out how to make them work all well, and maybe even incorporate some quizzes in our future discussion groups, because we can learn and have a little fun and be a little competitive at the same time. I thank you for spending some time with us on HCM Awareness Day. And I have to tell everybody who's watching, not only did your 3-year-old pick out your socks, but you and your wife have 2 new little people living in your house for the past almost 4 weeks now. So the fact that you're, at home taking care of family and took some time out to join your bigger community, we appreciate you for doing so. And congratulations on the twins.
Thank you so much. I had to turn that filter up so you don't see the bags under my eyes, but I think it worked out okay.
You're doing fine. Thank you so much. And we are now going to, Ross, are you going to go back to screen sharing on your side and the full screen? And thank you, Michael. And we'll put Michael back in the backstage. And then Ross, are you doing screen share? I am living on the edge here. Kevin has raised his hand. Kevin, we're not doing questions from the audience tonight. We're going on to some other production right now. And we've got the Cleveland Clinic slide. from Melinda Sai. And Russ, do you think you can open up your screen a little bit so we don't see the browser up top? Should be able to go into slide. Yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to be picky, but. Or you can do what I do and not leave all your tabs open. No, I leave all my tabs open. They all know it. It's terrible. Okay. 3, 2, 1. If it's. Okay, we'll go from there. And make sure
Hello
you do
to my
sound.
friends at the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association. I'm Melinda Desai from the Cleveland Clinic, and I would like to sincerely thank you on the occasion of HCM Awareness Day today for everything you do for our patients with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I would like to sincerely thank you on the occasion of HCM Awareness Day today for everything you do for our patients with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, to not only to increase awareness, but to guide them in the right direction at their often most vulnerable time. Me and my colleagues here at the Cleveland Clinic definitely recognize the value that you bring to these patients, and we would again like to congratulate you on all the successes that you have had over the years. Enjoy, and look forward to continuing to work with you in the future as we forge a new path forward. Thank you very much again.
I think Malin was traveling quite a bit and did that video for us when he was a little tired. So thank you, Malin, for doing that. And whoop, 10 things to know about HCM. I am going to invite Dr. Anjali Owens to the studio so we can promote her. And then we're also going to hear a little bit from Dr. Martin Marin tonight in this area. Let's get Anjali to the stage. Stacy, can you help? Stacy, can you help me with Anjali to the stage? I don't know what's happening. Oh, nope, here she is. Hello, Anjali.
Hi, I heard I've been promoted.
You have been promoted. So we figured out this new feature. We can keep you all backstage and you can all chat and have fun and watch. And then we pull you up to the stage when it's time.
Excellent. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for coming and thank you for being part of HCM Awareness Day. We are going to talk about 10 things you should know about HCM, and it's off of our checklist. So we have been providing HCM checklists for patients and families to kind of keep track of all the things that they need to go over with their doc on a regular basis. And we had Marty Marin talk a little bit because he couldn't be with us live tonight about some of the imaging stuff. And then you and I are going to go into a conversation a little bit more about some of these other issues on the card. So Ross, can we have the next slide and then we'll hear hopefully from Marty. Marty, thanks for joining us on HCM Awareness Day. I know you're out of the country working hard for all of the community worldwide. So welcome and happy HCM Awareness Day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Happy HCM Awareness Day here on Valentine's Day. Sorry, we are not, well, at least we're recording it on Valentine's Day. I'm not live, as you just said. I'm overseas at an HCM meeting trying to advance the understanding, of course, of the disease globally here, which, as you said, I think is an important priority. So, but sorry, I can't be with you live.
No problem. Okay, let's get you centered on the screen so you look great for everybody watching. So we're going to talk about top things HCM patients need to know,
okay,
and what we've learned recently that might change understanding if it applies to the area.
Okay.
Imaging in HCM, critical factor. How often do patients need to have imaging, and what kind of imaging should they be looking at annually?
Yeah. Well, imaging is so critical, as you just said. It's like almost a core element of the evaluation of patients with HCM, not just initially, but obviously longitudinally too, and that usually means on a yearly basis. We'll talk. So initially, it should be probably a combination of both echocardiography and cardiac MRI, if that's applicable for that patient. But most patients can have MRIs. and should, because both the MRI and the echo provide kind of what we call complementary information about the patient's HCM heart, so in terms of wall thickness, function, and also the inside the muscle, the fibrosis and scarring, which is something that only MRI can do. And so there's strengths and limitations. There's strengths of each of the modalities, the echo and MRI, but we're trying to, gather the strength of each of those to apply to a patient initially, and then for follow-up, really it should be for almost all patients, particularly young, middle-aged, it's yearly echocardiography, because we're of course trying to continue to follow if there are any changes to the HCM heart, and if so, we want to be on that early so that we can redirect therapy if we need to.
And when do you bring in a stress echocardiogram to the evaluation?
Yeah, great question. So stress echocardiography, or what we also call exercise echocardiography, is typically done certainly as part of the initial evaluation at an HCM center if a patient does not have obstruction to a certain degree at rest or under the basal conditions with the rest echo. So in other words, if there's no gradient at rest, we then do the exercise for sure to see if there is an exercise-induced outflow gradient, because if there is, that's super important to know, as we'll probably talk about in a minute, because it can impact how we treat patients and, of course, what patients can expect for the future as well.
So thank you to Marty for sharing that message. Ross, you can go on to the next screen, please. So Anjali, Marty talked about imaging, and I gave you the rest of the checklist, as we call it. So Marty, Ross, whatever your name is. This is a long day, folks. Ross, can you click one more time on that screen, please? So this is our checklist. If you want a copy of the checklist, obviously just call the office and we'll be happy to send some out to you. Most of our centers have a supply of these. If centers need them, we'll send them out to them as well. So Marty went over imaging, and imaging leads to your HCM status. In the question, in the survey, or not survey, in the quiz we just did, we talked about obstructed versus non-obstructed, which by the way, I thought was super fun. We got to do that again. So Anjali, could you please first of all, tell everybody where you're from? Because I've been real casual tonight. I think everybody knows where everybody is from. So tell them where you're all from, and then we'll talk about the status of obstructed or non-obstructed. I'm sorry.
Sounds good. So I'm Anjali Owens from the University of Pennsylvania, and I direct our HCM Center in Philadelphia. I've been at Penn since I finished fellowship, so it's been a good number of years now. And we've been working together, of course, as neighboring states, and now as an HCM Center of Excellence. So it's a pleasure to be here, and let's jump into what is obstruction versus non-obstructive HCM. And we measure that by a number called a gradient, which is a pressure gradient inside the heart. And we measure it on echo. And that's why, as Dr. Marin said, it's really important to get that echo about once a year so that we can measure the pressures and see whether there is difficulty with the blood exiting the heart muscle to get to the aorta. And that really what defines obstruction. And we look for a gradient number of around 30 as our threshold for saying if you don't have obstruction, your gradient is less than 30. And if you do have obstruction, that pressure gradient that we measure can be greater than 30. If it's greater than 50, we put it in the bucket of severe obstruction. And as Marty said, we have different treatments for obstructive versus non-obstructive HCM, at least at this point. So it matters whether or not you have it. And that's a question you can ask every year.
So to know if you're obstructed or not helps you guide towards what therapies might be available for you, what clinical trials might be available for you. So really kind of important to know. And on our checklist, when you get to the bottom, that is where you can put your gradient numbers, your wall measurements. So as you're going through the checklist and you ask your doc, well, which one am I? You can document it. You can keep a little piece of paper with you. You can put it in your HCM patient journal, and you can continue to keep those on you all the time. So sudden cardiac arrest, we also talked about in the quiz. How often should patients be evaluated for their individual risk for sudden cardiac arrest?
So we generally do this again on a yearly basis, every year or so. And some factors we want to keep a continuous eye on, as Dr. Ayers said, if there's a new family history that turns up in the middle of the year, that a family member has died suddenly, if there is a new arrhythmia that turns up in the middle of the year because you're having palpitations or you pass out, that's important information that you don't have to wait a full year to call and tell your cardiology team. You want them to know if there are important events that happen to you, even in between your visits. But generally speaking, this is a risk factor that will be looked at each time that you see the cardiologist. And we do echoes or MRIs to look at the wall thickness, to look for scar tissue. We do Holter monitors or ambulatory monitors to look for the arrhythmia. We assess the family history. And there are risk calculators that are now available freely online, and you can take a look at those and certainly discuss it with your cardiologist to say, what is my risk? And there are some risk scores that can give you a 5-year estimated risk of dying suddenly. And we use that in conjunction with a discussion with our patients, and that part is really critical so that the decision that we make is shared and we come to it together.
Fantastic. Ross, can you click again? Because the form's a little small, so I brought up the boxes. I know you love your genetics. So how often should patients evaluate the meaning of their previous genetic testing, as well as inquire if they've not had an identified gene yet? What should they do?
So for new patients, we do a genetic assessment or offer genetic testing to every patient. And we do this in conjunction with the genetic counselor so that you can go through very important pre-test questions and understanding so that you really know what you're getting into if you opt to do genetic testing. Once you've had genetic testing, if they find a change in your DNA, which we call a variant, we then classify it as one, we know it's associated with HCM. We call that disease causing. 2, completely benign. And all of us have changes in our DNA that don't lead to disease. They're benign. Or 3, it's in a gray zone. We call that a variant of uncertain significance. It's a change in the spelling, but we're not sure what it means. And it's really important that you talk with your team if you've had genetic testing, one, to say, has my variant changed in terms of its category, its bucket? Has it moved from disease causing to not disease causing because of new information? Or vice versa, has it moved from the gray zone into either disease causing or benign? And that can help with risk stratification of family members. So we always want to know, has the variant changed its classification? And you also want to ask, is it time for updated genetic testing? Because we're getting smarter and we're finding new genes that are associated with HCM. And I anticipate a new one will be added on the basis of very recently published data to our standard HCM panel. So in the next several months, and we don't know exactly how long it will take for the commercial companies to adopt this gene into their new panels, we're probably going to see a new gene, maybe 2, on the panels. And so again, it's important to ask your team, is it time to do updated genetic testing? And once the panel changes enough and we think we might be able to find something, we should offer updated genetic testing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's something that can get overlooked sometimes.
Absolutely.
So that's why we keep it on the checklist. Ross, can you click again, please? Medication changes. How often should patients be really assessing how well is it really working for me, my current medical regimen? How should they address that?
And again, this is something that you should assess in an ongoing matter. If you have a major change in symptoms, something that is not right and you know it, don't wait a year or 6 months to contact your team and say, listen, something's different and I need to be reassessed. And that might lead to a medication change. If your blood pressure changes, your heart rate changes, you're having new or worrisome symptoms, talk with your team about whether or not a medication change is warranted. Short of that, if you're feeling well, again, that can happen at your every 6-month or yearly visit, that all of your medications should be assessed. So that means bring a list or your pill bottles with you to the visit so that the team can go through them, make sure they have the right name of drug, the right dose of the drug, how you're taking it, and they can also check for interactions between drugs. And this is increasingly important as we get new classes of medications that can have interactions. So this is something that you want to assess on an ongoing basis, and you want to ask your team, are there any new medications that could be used for my condition when you go in and see your team?
Fantastic. And the almighty question of diet and exercise. Diet and exercise. We all want the magic answer. Doctor, tell us what's the magic answer. What should we be talking about?
I wish I had a magic answer, but I will say that we have new tools, and it comes in the way of new medications that can be used to help with weight loss. With regard to diet, we typically do not recommend diets that are extremely low calorie or that restrict fluids, particularly with our patients who have obstructive HCM. We don't want you to become dehydrated, which can worsen your symptoms, and we don't want you to be starving. So we typically shy away from those very extreme diets for our patients with HCM. We say do things in moderation, be careful about your caloric intake, but don't restrict too much. And in some cases, increasingly high number of patients are candidates for the new weight loss medications that are injectables at this point. And we have found that they work well for our patients with HCM. Again, this is an individual-based decision that you want to make with your team, and it has to go through insurance and get approval. It can be expensive in terms of out-of-pocket cost, but this is another discussion that you absolutely should have. And in the meantime, do try to do moderate physical activity, aerobic activity, which we think is good for nearly everyone, and that you should be doing that regularly for your heart health.
Quality of life assessment. And why did we write this on the card? Because sometimes we get into the echo and the stress test and the genetics and the medication, and we forget the really important question, how am I feeling both physically and emotionally?
100% agree. And it's so important that you put it on the card so that we don't forget it. And when your cardiologist asks you, how are you? Be honest with them. If there's one thing that I could say, really tell them how you're feeling and bring along a family member or a caregiver who can also corroborate how you're doing within the last 6 months or a year. And your cardiologist doesn't want to hear that you're just fine. So don't feel like you have to say that.
But we do.
Everything's good.
We want to be fine. We want to just be normal, but sometimes we have to have reality moments.
Yeah, and be honest with them. Really think about how you've done in the last 6 months or a year. What were you able to do then that you're not able to do now? What do you want to do that you're not able to do? How is this affecting your mental health, your day-to-day activities, your interactions with your loved ones or your coworkers? And really explain that and think about how this disease may be affecting you, because there are support mechanisms in place, and hopefully more that will be built out based on your earlier segments, Lisa, that can help people to be able to cope with the disease that is very real and can affect your life. And we want to help with that.
Fantastic. One last click, Ross. Family screenings. So we put this on the card, not because the individual needs to be screened, but because they need to be reminded to encourage who to be screened, Anjali.
So when we look at someone who has HCM, meaning their heart is showing evidence of being thick and abnormal, that individual, all of their first degree relatives, and that means that individual's parents, their siblings, and their children are all at risk. And those are the individuals who need screening, which means to look for any signs or symptoms of HCM. And as we said in our earlier segment, when you were with Dr. Ayers, this is an ongoing screening. One-time screening is not enough because the disease can show up in your heart at any point in your life. And a particularly high-risk period is adolescence, as you highlighted. So in those individuals who are in puberty, adolescence, it's every year to 18 months that they need their heart to be looked at with an echo. EKG is not enough. And once you're a full-grown adult, every few years, that can range to every 2 to 5 years, depending on what your heart looks like. And importantly, if you're someone who's been screened, you have no symptoms, but you develop a new symptom, don't wait for 3 years to get your heart rechecked. Any new symptom should prompt a new screening.
Absolutely. All your numbers can be captured on this very simple card. We're happy to send them out to you. We want you to have good conversations. Our goal here is to empower you to have good communication with your chosen healthcare provider and make choices that are right for you and your family at the right time. So Anjali, thank you so much for joining us tonight on HCM Awareness Day. I know you are not only a busy physician and researcher, but mom. So thank you for spending some of your personal time with us today. We truly appreciate that.
Absolutely. My small multipoo is barking in the background. So I'll go. And congratulations on HCM Awareness Day.
Thank you so much, Anjali. And there's the puppy.
There he is.
I just heard that one. And hey, we love dogs. So that's a great thing. Okay, Ross.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, I forgot. Wait, Anjali, hold on a second. She's gone already, but I wanted to give a shout out to the wonderful programming of HCM Academy and our fantastic steering committee, which includes Marty Marin, Anjali Owens, and Steve Ammons. For free CME courses, visit HCM Academy and share it with your care providers locally and help them learn a little bit more about HCM. And that's my commercial for HCM Academy. Okay, Ross, next slide. Sorry. An opportunity to remind you to donate. So there's the QR code. If you like what we're doing so far and you need us to do more of our work, well, we're going to need your support. So if you can make a donation of $5, that's great. If you can do 50, fantastic. 500, wonderful. 5,000, we thank you. 50,000, then we can finish the docuseries. So if you're thinking about a larger campaign giving program and you want to talk to us about some of our larger projects, we can have those conversations as well. Please call the office and speak with Elena. Next slide, please. Let's hear from our friends at Tenaya.
Hello, I'm Wendy Borsari, Associate Director of Patient Advocacy at Tenaya Therapeutics, and also an HCM patient. Here at Tenaya, we are committed to discovering and developing new medicines that attempt to address the underlying causes of heart conditions. TN-201 is our gene replacement therapy for people living with HCM due to an MYBPC3 mutation. If successful, TN-201 may provide a treatment option that can halt HCM's progress or even possibly reverse disease by delivering a working MYBPC3 gene to the heart. TN-201 is currently being studied in a clinical trial called MyPeak-1, and early data from the first 3 patients are encouraging. We saw robust evidence that TN-201 gene therapy reached the heart muscle cells, and at 1 year, we observed an increase in levels of the MYBPC protein needed for the heart to contract properly. TN-201 was well tolerated at the first dose to have been tested, and this means that we're able to increase the dose and expand the eligibility for who can participate in MyPeak-1. Testing at the higher dose is now underway. It will take more time to fully understand if TN-201 is having an effect on the heart, and we can't wait to share further updates on our progress with the entire HCM community. We're more hopeful than ever that genetic medicines such as TN-201 can have a meaningful impact on the health of patients with HCM in the future. We send a heartfelt thank you to the patients who have participated in our clinical trials and to the HCMA for their continued partnership. Happy HCM Awareness Day to all of you from all of us at Tenaya.
I'm sorry that video was a little on the quiet side. We will be sharing it through our social media networks as well, and you can hear it better.
I would like to start off by thanking
That's okay. Rosh, you can go ahead. Bring up the next slide.
Hello.
No. Here.
I would like to start off by thanking HCMA for giving us the time to share TJ's story today. If you knew him, you loved him. That pretty much sums up my brother. My brother's name is Thomas DeMarco Jr., better known as TJ. Though his life was brief, it was filled with meaning, and through his family, it still is. TJ suddenly passed away from an obstructive HCM. A few years before his passing, he went to the ER due to symptoms he was experiencing, making him not feel right. The doctors ran tests and diagnosed him with anxiety. After the ER visit, he decided to make some lifestyle changes, such as cutting out coffee that would trigger the anxiety. He unfortunately did not know it was a heart condition. Since this is a hereditary condition, his daughter Olivia was tested and carries the gene. My family stands by this organization because of the importance of how crucial genetic testing is and how much it can save a life. That is why we created the TJ DeMarco Foundation. We support HCM's mission of education, research, and mostly important, early detection to help people like TJ have a fighting chance, and Olivia who knows about the gene and will have all the resources she will need to live a happy and healthy life. TJ's legacy lives on, not just in the memories we hold, but in the actions we take. And what better way to honor him than doing what he loved most, golf. On September 23rd, we will gather to celebrate his life, raise awareness, and make a difference. We deeply appreciate your love, support, and generosity. If TJ's story can help one person, it's worth sharing. To the HCM community, we encourage you to take action, host fundraisers, spread awareness, and support HCMA in any way you can. Together, we can make a real impact. For more information, please reach out to HCMA. Thank you.
Next slide.
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you. And everything you do, yeah, they were all yellow. I came along, I wrote a song for you. And all the things you do, was called yellow. So then I took my turn. Oh, what a thing to have done. And it was all yellow.
A shout out to the DeMarco family who came to us in a moment of grief and said they wanted to do something more. And last year they were able to donate $10,000 from the golf outing. And if you're in the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area and you want to join us in September, please do. That was kind of a last minute add-on to our agenda tonight. They were going to come in person, but they couldn't make it. So they sent the video. I put that ahead of our AI talk because had TJ gotten earlier diagnosis, he might still be here today. So I'm going to invite to our screen two very important people, a representative from Jamie Stern from Biz AI. Hello, Jamie. And we're going to also have Dr. Harlan Krumholtz from, sorry, Harlan, I've been talking too much today. Could somebody in the office get me some more water? I'm out. Who is at Yale and also the new editor of a little journal called Jack. So he's got a little bit of work to do there. Harlan, I don't see you on camera. I hope you're with us.
I am. I don't know why.
Oh, I think it. Want to try your video, turn off and turn on? I'd love to see your
Yeah.
face.
It was there before.
Do you have a lens cover on possibly?
No, it was working before. Keep going. I'll
Okay.
troubleshoot it while you're
We'll
talking.
try to figure it out. Oh, thank you. Here we go. Perfect. Thanks, Joel. Okay, so I bring together two individuals who kind of have some things in common and some things a little bit different. Harlan, I heard speak at the CVCT meeting this year in DC about AI in publishing. And I know he's also got an interest in AI in early diagnostics. So I thought it would be interesting to have a conversation tonight about the use of AI on the diagnostic side and where we're going with AI, because everybody seems a little nervous about the whole concept. So I don't think it's all good and I don't think it's all bad, but I think we can find a way to make it useful to provide us with a service. So while we are running Harlan through some tech support, I'll start with Jamie. We'll go ladies first tonight. So I think, Jamie, did you have slides you wanted to share on your own? Okay, Ross, can you bring down the slides and then we'll allow Jamie to share on her own? And we'll hear a little bit about what Biz AI is doing. And if Harlan needs to pop backstage to fix something and then come back up, we can do that as well. So Jamie, the audience is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thanks for the opportunity to come here and present. Very nice to meet everyone. I work at Biz AI as the HCM program lead and also the Senior Director of Clinical Strategy and Operations. I oversee the cardiovascular portfolio, so very timely to be here and present. Just to level set, Lisa, you were talking about AI and where we are in the market, and just so folks on the screen can know who we are and where we've been, Viz AI started in 2016 in the area of stroke, and we've since expanded in varying diseases in neuro and cardiovascular, in pulmonary and trauma. We develop AI modalities and algorithms that sit and bed on either EHR data or imaging data. So in this case, I'll get into a little bit about the product today for HCM. And we're deployed in over 1,700 hospitals across the US. About 60,000 healthcare providers use our products in all these varying degrees of disease. So, and really timely for why Viz HCM. When we look at the market, the total addressable market that we want to really make an impact with, our goal in any of these diseases is to find patients, bring those patients to the right specialist, and make sure that those patients are getting on the right therapy at the right time so that they can really get the care they deserve. And in HCM, we heard a lot tonight about that 80% of patients with HCM are really undiagnosed. And the complexities around their diagnostic journey is quite long. So the typical patient can go through an average of 5 years until they get their definitive diagnosis. Oftentimes, they will go through 4 misdiagnoses that, until we actually get to the point that they have HCM, similar to TJ's experience where he was discharged with anxiety. And oftentimes, once they're in the hands of a cardiologist, they'll go through 5 or more visits until they can actually get HCM and put on treatment. So for all those reasons, we feel strongly that there's a massive underdiagnosis problem in the community today. And we really feel with AI that we can put in the hands of clinicians the ability to bring patients into clinic and really get them the right care that they deserve. So when we think about AI in healthcare and where it's been, where it's gone, what's the noise, what's the responsible AI and where we're going, a lot of our products work in the same fashion. So we start off with an artificial intelligence powered algorithm. That algorithm is trained on a large data set of patients that in this case have HCM or do not have HCM. And so in reality, we're ingesting the ECGs at health systems at the point of care. We're running that artificial intelligence algorithm on the ECG, and the algorithm will pick up different characteristics on that ECG for patients that have suspicion of HCM. So it can be viewed as a very upstream triage-like exam to really make that provider aware that a patient has hit the health system, that there's something abnormal going on, and they should really take care in that patient to get them viewed and brought into clinic. The product itself, So we have the AI, and then we also have a software tool that you're seeing on the desktop solution and then the mobile application. That sits within the health system. Providers have access to it. It's a software application. And so once an AI alert is sent to the providers, you'll see a list of patients. It's a very simple work list of patients that have a highly suspicion for HCM. And so the providers can work that list, bring those patients back into clinic and take action. Within the software, we have care coordination tools. We have a HIPAA compliant chat functionality that allows providers to communicate in a very safe, private, and protected fashion about the patient's plan of care. We have the ability for these providers to change the status of patients to really follow those patients throughout their journey from early diagnosis or suspicion of diagnosis all the way down to therapy optimization. And they can track these patients within our tool. And then you'll see on the mobile device, we have image viewers and different functionalities that allow the providers to see real-time data 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year about that patient. So you can be on the go, you can be at a desktop, and you just have the same information wherever you're at. Okay. In terms of health systems and how we actually deploy the solution, so we partner with varying degrees of hospitals across the US. They can be academic medical centers and centers of excellence, all the way down to community health practices. As part of the onboarding with the system, once the system wants to adopt the AI, we have a field clinical specialist that go in, work with the providers to actually map the workflow. Typically, for the complexity of HCM, you'll see at the top the workflow, the pre-viz workflow is about 30 plus steps. So it's very convoluted, oftentimes multiple steps that the patient has to go through that the providers have to work through. And so what we do is we come in, we instruct how AI can help, how we can change that workflow to the benefit of the provider team, and really remove duplicities or areas of their workflow that we can actually replace with the AI tool. And so you can see at the bottom that the post-viz workflow brings the steps down to about 10 steps. And we see this again across every single one of our centers. And what this can do is can really shorten the time to diagnosis, right? It makes that time that the patient's having with their providers much shorter to the time they can actually get a diagnostic view of HCM and then be put on therapy. Okay. And just to close it out of really where we can see the impact of AI speaks to what Lisa was talking about before is, there are cases where, if there was an AI, would it have helped? Or, right, if we run a screening program, would we have captured patients that would not have otherwise be found? What you're looking at is a case example. I'm here local in New York City. This was at a large academic medical center here in the Manhattan area, a patient who had a 10-year timeline of her cardiovascular symptoms. She's gone through a multitude of imaging tests, a multitude of cardiovascular visits, and really was not diagnosed with HCM. The patient came to the health system for a pre-operative ECG, not related to cardiac disease at all. Luckily, the health system had Viz.ai deployed on these ECGs, and it flagged this patient's care. The provider got an alert that this patient has a high suspicion for HCM, and it really allowed that provider to put into action to bring that patient back into clinic, get the definitive diagnostic testing the gold standard testing that she needed, and she was found within 6 weeks of the first alert to the time she had the definitive diagnosis of HCM, that she was diagnosed and put on the right therapy. So just to bring it home, this is an example of the report that the provider actually reported out that Viz helped to identify this patient. And what's amazing about this case is it's not just a one-off. We see these cases over. The anecdotal evidence that we've seen in the market today, we've been about 2.5 years into this, is constant. Whether it's at a center of excellence or it's all the way down to the community hospital, we find that AI helps. It's good to have AI in the background. It drives decision management. It gets patients to where they need to be and to get the right therapy. So Lisa, I'll turn it over to you, but this is just an exemplary plan of how AI can just really help propel HCM in the market.
Jamie, thank you for that. And now I'm going to bring Harlan in, and then we're going to have a little discussion after Harlan speaks a little bit. So call up Arlen. I'm like, hey, come talk about AI. He's like, what part of it? I'm like, let's just talk about it. Because it is a little like, where do we put all of this? And how do we, the patients, trust the AI over the physician, or do we trust the physician over the AI, or is it a partnership? Harlan, tell us what you see.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and thank you so much. I just want to tell you how much honored I am to be here to talk to this group and to work with you, an inspiring leader, a tremendous individual who seeks to try to help everyone in your community and actually has the lived experience to know what it's like. So you've lived this through your eyes, but you also are trying to help so many people. So when you called me, I always will say yes. You know, that it's just such an important
Careful what
thing.
you say, my dear. Careful what you say.
No, not at all. So look, I think the most important message is people ought not to be afraid of this word AI. You know, we're at an important inflection point in medicine. And by the way, we're lagging. So, you know, you all are using AI every day. I mean, if you have a phone that's activating when you look at it, it's using AI. I mean, the very best AI is you don't even know it's AI. It's like magic. You know, it's like I can open my phone just looking at it. And there are sophisticated algorithms, high mathematics, high compute behind all of that that enables it to tell the difference between you and anyone else who looks at your phone. But the end result is it makes it a lot easier for you to use the phone. You know, you don't have to put in the codes, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. That's what AI is about. You know, there are advancements that enable us to do things that we never could do before. And so you know, it is true that we're going to need to know what can we trust, what's good, what's bad. But you know, the truth is that medicine as it exists today isn't optimal. There remain many people who go undiagnosed. There are many doctors who aren't familiar with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. There are not enough experts in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy to go around the world to treat and help all the people who are facing this problem. So we need to be able to think about how we maintain the humanity within our profession. How can we maintain the personal connection, the idea that we are two humans sitting across and working with each other, but how can we use every tool at our disposal to make sure we're elevating our performance, to delighting everyone by their experience, to make it much more efficient so you're not waiting in waiting rooms and people aren't misdiagnosed and there aren't delays and there aren't wrong treatments and we can pick up things earlier, mistakes aren't made, things don't fall through the cracks. You know, there's so many things in medicine that are very importantly pattern recognition. And you know, we humans can be pretty good at pattern recognition, but we also have cognitive biases that lead us to err, you know, so we can't pick up things. And it turns out, you know what's good at really tedious tasks that are about pattern recognition that never get tired, that can run, you know, effortlessly through large volumes? AI. AI happens to be able to do that very well. Now, still connecting it with an individual whose preferences, values, goals, lived experience needs to be integrated into kind of decision making where we work as partners and try to determine what's next. AI can't do that as well because that's an intrinsically human activity. But being able to, for example, pick up a diagnosis off an ECG, AI does that really well. At our place, I mean, it's nice to hear what Viz is doing. Our place, we also dug into this problem. We thought there are a lot of people who aren't being diagnosed. And we thought, without data integrations, what if you could just take a picture of an ECG with your phone? What if you could just take a single lead off of your watch? What if within any medical institution, you could just churn through PDFs of ECGs without having to worry about anything else and identify people who are probably being missed? And so we also dug into this problem, and similarly like they did, we were able to create algorithms that are incredibly accurate. And here's the trick about this that's so amazing. When I was a cardiology fellow, and as I took cardiology boards, I was taught how to read an ECG and what were the clues that might suggest that someone had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. We memorized these. And, you know, there were sort of 5 things that we would look at and try to make an inference and do that. It turns out that was a pretty clunky set of rules. Those 5 rules didn't operate very well because many people had it and didn't have those things. Many people that didn't have it. So there were false positives, false negatives. It turns out when you put the ECG through all the kind of steps that Jamie described, where you test it in what we call a training set of people who've got the condition against a group of people that don't have the condition, you kind of teach it over time. It turns out it can make determinations not by replicating the cardiologist, but by being able to make inferences and drawing conclusions that we can't get out of our eyes. We can't actually perceive. It can't teach me how to do what it's doing. It's looking at all the signal in whole from that ECG, and it has looked now at a bunch of others, thousands of other people, and it's being able to make, wow, this looks a lot like what I've seen before in people who have this condition in ways that my brain can't connect. No, the greatest cardiologists in the world can't compete with even routine AI in this kind of pattern recognition. I could liken it to Paul Bunyan. Even if you have Paul Bunyan, the greatest cardiologist on earth, who's like, in this case, the greatest lumberjack on earth, this towering person who could fell trees with a single swoop, was no match for the electric, buzz saw. And so we can pretend that like we want to be able to be preeminent, but I'll give you one more comparison, then I'll stop. I was going about 5 or 10 minutes too long, so you should never really invite me. But here's another one. There is no pilot worth anything who doesn't say, I want to use as much AI as I can to make planes safer. Now we're in a moment where there have been some issues with planes, but no matter what, we are a ton safer than we were in the 1980s and 90s and 2000s because the systems have gotten a lot more sophisticated. And I'll give you another one where the stakes are highest. When we're talking about fighter pilots, these people are surrounding themselves with these tools so that they can make these kind of maneuvers that previously would have been very high risk, but now they can do it with a sense of security that they are operating with every single thing that can help them. An augmented reality. Their masks actually have AI that's helping them. Their ability to handle all of the gauges and all the information in that cockpit are because it's being distilled through high-level computer systems that are helping them be more effective pilots. And there's not one pilot who would rather say, let me just do it on my own. I'm a really good pilot. I don't need all this stuff. That no one would even let them fly because they can't compete with today's pilots using the systems. That's what's going to happen to medicine. The very best doctors, it's not about being replaced. The very best doctors are going to be the ones who know how to use these tools, who are avid for them for the benefit of their patients. And yes, we're going to have to put them through their paces. We're going to have to know that they can be trusted. But really, it's going to be within the next 10 years, you're going to be amazed with what's going to happen in medicine because of these great new tools we're going to have. It's going to transform everything. And, it's just up to us to be sure that, one, we don't lose the humanity in the midst of these new tools and that they're used in appropriate ways and monitored. Because one other thing about AI, it learns over time. It could drift where it's like not doing as well as it did originally. So we have to have systems of quality surrounding it to ensure that it's continually producing the performance that we need and expect. And if that works out, we're going to be in great shape.
Do you worry about AI infiltrating publishing in a negative way, or is it a positive assistance to help produce good documents faster?
Oh my God, that is such a good question. So, you're asking me as an editor, and I will tell you, there are some concerns because the more sophisticated the AI gets, the more somebody could deceive you with work that has been manipulated or in some ways fabricated or simply produced out of nothing. If they went to a AI program and said, produce a paper for me with all the data. And increasingly it will be harder to determine what's real and what's not. Science is progressive and self-correcting. So what's always important in science is not that one person comes up with something, but that you're able to see over time that there's triangulation of truth, that different people are coming up with it. So, as scientists and editors, we need to be very discerning, and we will have to be increasingly sophisticated and use AI as a tool to help us detect these problems of fraud. Fraud's always been present in science, so this isn't new, but it will be able to be done at scale. But I do think these tools will help augment research. And what I've been advocating for is for researchers to use these tools to the best extent possible, including helping them develop papers. Some journals are saying you need to disclose if you're using AI to write the papers. I'm saying well, do you need to disclose spell check? It will be integrated into everything. Word, any word processing program, they're all going to have AI. I don't mind. I just want the author to take responsibility. No one's going to be able to tell me, well, there's a mistake here and it's not my fault. AI did it. No,
Right.
that's yours. That's your work. You signed off on it. You're responsible for it. So people have to realize they can't be passive in this process. They have to be active. And I said, the biggest danger is if you take, it's sort of like, I mean, we do have autonomous driving, but in this case, if you take your hands off the wheel of your research because you think that it's going to be taken care of, bad things will happen. So it's a matter again of making you a better driver, but we're not ready. There's no autonomous research. The researcher's got to be deeply involved and take full responsibility.
Fantastic. Jamie, any thoughts on Harlan's dissertation on AI?
Yeah, I mean, it resonates almost identical to what we do in the commercial space. I think responsible AI it should be an absolute buzzword for the next 5 to 10 years, as he's saying, as AI is exponentially improving and advancing. I think companies, there's 250 plus algorithm AI companies on the market today. And I think one of the folks that will be successful and drive the greatest impact are the companies that really put patients first, the evidence first, the quality behind the rigor of their research. A company should not shy away, like he was presenting, of papers and in the wild rigor and publications to reproduce the performance of these algorithms. We shouldn't shy away from having our clinicians want to do research on our algorithms, because that we stand by the trust of our algorithm and the quality, and that I think is what matters. So it's almost an identical resonation to what we do in the industry side in the space.
Well, guys, we're running a little bit late tonight. Shocking.
Thank you.
But I thank you both for spending some time with us on HCM Awareness Day, and I look forward to the continued conversation as we evolve in our understanding and acceptance of AI in our lives and in our healthcare. Thank you so much, and we're
Thank
going
you, Lisa.
to
Nice to see you, Jamie. Bye-bye.
nice to see you all. Thank you so much. And now we're going to hear from HCM Health, and then we're going to talk a little bit about clinical trials, but that one's going to go kind of quick tonight.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dermot Phelan. I'm the Medical Director of the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Centre of Excellence at HCM Health Sanger Heart and Vascular Institute. And I'm delighted to participate in the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Awareness Day today. We've been asked to highlight one area of real import for this patient population. And what I'd like to do in the course of the next 2 minutes or so is just talk about the importance of exercise in patients with HCM. Unfortunately, in the past, the medical profession have been guilty of discouraging patients with HCM from exercising, and this has resulted in higher levels of obesity, depression, and worsening cardiorespiratory fitness, which ultimately results in worse outcomes. Over the course of the last 18 months or so, there's been a lot of data published in some very high-tier journals, including data from our own center where we looked at elite athletes, which has highlighted not only the safety but the benefit of regular exercise. I would suggest that for all of our patients with HCM, we really need to be encouraging regular moderate exercise most days of the week. We here at the Sanger Heart and Vascular Institute really focus on this, and one of the things that we will do for almost all of our new patients is perform a cardiopulmonary test where we can give people a very specific exercise prescription for them going forward.
So we've been privileged to have received funding from the Gregg Center for Cardiovascular Performance, which allows us to provide cardiac rehab for all of our patients with HCM. The diagnosis for HCM is not covered under cardiac rehab, so the Gregg Center for Cardiovascular Performance allows us to fund for our patients with HCM to be able to go through cardiac rehab. We understand the importance of exercise for anyone's overall cardiovascular benefit, especially patients with HCM, allowing them to get back into exercise safely, and cardiac rehab is a great resource to do that.
So I'd like to take these final moments to thank all of our patients and our team who provide care for our patients. And let's continue to work with the HCMA to raise awareness of this very important disorder. Thank you.
Thank you, Atrium Health. And now we're going to talk a little bit about clinical trials, and we have a pre-recorded segment from Dr. Charlene Day and Dr. Carolyn Ho coming up next, I believe. Ross? Yes, thank you.
I'm Charlene Day. I'm a physician in the HCM clinic at the University of Pennsylvania.
And I'm Carolyn Ho. I'm a cardiologist at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts.
Charlene and I are so excited to talk to you today about all the incredible advances that have happened in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy over the past few years. After decades of really not having robust clinical trial evidence or even robust information about HCM, there's been just an explosion of activity and information over the past few years.
So there are a variety of different opportunities for people with HCM to participate in. So there are so-called observational studies. These are like registries where there's no intervention, but where the investigators are collecting information about people to try and learn more about why people experience their condition differently. So these are typically prospective studies, which we call something like natural history, so that we just understand how HCM progresses in different people. And then there are also interventional trials. So these are clinical trials that are typically testing a drug, a lifestyle intervention, or a device or surgery in individuals with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Most of them today are testing pharmaceutical agents, drugs that are, some of which are repurposed from other conditions, some of which are brand new and novel and designed specifically to treat people with HCM. So some examples include cardiac myosin inhibitors, sarcomeric modulators that are similar to cardiac myosin inhibitors, but might modulate the contractile function of the heart a little bit differently. Drugs called sodium glucose transporter inhibitors, which have been shown to be very effective in people with different forms of heart failure that bear some similarities to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And there are also some phase 1 or very beginning stages of gene therapy trials.
And then we're even expanding the scope of our trials to reach, initially, the focus was on obstructive HCM, so patients had symptoms related to their obstruction, but now these trials are being expanded to non-obstructive HCM to try to tackle that extremely challenging unmet need of advancing care for symptomatic non-obstructive HCM. And we're even moving into looking at the care of children and providing clinical trials to look at symptomatic children with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So it's incredibly important to partner with all of our patients, within investigators and the patients, in the same, dedicated to the same mission of advancing knowledge in the field. So that's why it's so important for you to consider whether it might be, something that you would do to participate in one of these clinical trials or some of these observational studies to help us really better understand what HCM is, what predicts risk of adverse outcomes, and how we might be able to improve quality of life and long-term health.
So there are a variety of sources that you can learn about what clinical trials are available and which ones you might be eligible for. So you can go directly to the source, which is clinicaltrials.gov. That's a federal website that in all trials that are conducted or required to be registered with clinicaltrials.gov, you can put in a search term, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and you can filter down from there further. The other place that you can go is to, of course, to your healthcare provider and ask them if they're aware of clinical trials that are ongoing at their site or somewhere nearby where you could inquire. And then, of course, you can go to the HCMA. The HCMA is a source of all knowledge, and they have all up-to-date ongoing clinical trials on their website. And we're so excited to be celebrating HCM Awareness Day, the fourth Wednesday of every February every year, and this year on February 26th. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you to Carolyn and Charlene for taking some time to record that for us. It's a busy time in clinical trial world. Ross, can we advance a slide, please? There's going to be a new trial coming up in, this didn't get the edit on there. The project will start in Q3 2025, not 2005. For those of you who were involved with the Imbria trial, I am really bad at pronouncing the name of this particular drug. I'm going with Ninerfastat. Ninerfastat. I probably said that wrong. This is a drug that focuses on cardioenergetics at its very core. And the phase 2 trial was completed last year and did very well. And there's going to be a phase 2B trial that will launch in a couple of months. And we will be working with Imbria again for clinical trial recruitment on that project. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, go back. We're missing some slides here. Oh, no, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm tired. I'm sorry. One of the ways we have to communicate with you on clinical trials is through our Nest app. I don't know if Maureen's backstage or not, if she's able to join us, or we can bring her on later. Okay, just heard she had to run away. So our HCM Nest project is done in partnership with Nest Genomics, who provides these wonderful educational offerings. And we are going to be amplifying our Nest utilization to make sure you know about every clinical trial that you might be qualified for. So you'll be able to we'll be able to take a look at your intake and navigation, see the features, and make sure that you know, hey, there's a trial that it looks like you might qualify for. Do you want to know more about it? We're going to be using Nest as the year goes on to tell you about more of those. Many of you participated in our recent webinar with Charlene and Carolyn on the Lexicon project. And I'm happy to say that we have met our recruitment criteria, or our recruitment contract with Lexicon, and over 150 of you have identified a site. And we're working on getting you connected with a site coordinator. It's Heart Month. It was a little bit busy, but by the end of the week, we'll get all of those referrals out, and you should all start hearing back from the clinical coordinators by next month. And next slide, please, Ross. And we have a little simpler system on our website. So if you go to the research journey page on the HCMA website, we've got a QR code here, but you'll see something called the antidote box. All you need to do, it's already pre-populated to clinicaltrials.gov. Using AI, it pulls all the information from clinicaltrials.gov on all the HCM protocols. All you need to do is put in your location by zip code, and it will give you the trials that are within distance. It'll ask you a couple of questions, an obstructed, non-obstructed, some cancer history questions potentially. And then it'll give you a list of all the trials that you might be able to participate in. So we've made it really, really simple to find the trials. But let's say you find the trial and you're like, okay, I found one that I kind of like, but I'm really not sure what the next step is. Call us. We'll help connect you with the site. It shouldn't be intimidating. It shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be imposing in any way. So that's why we put the tool up there to help you find the trial. But we're also here to help you with the communication with that site if you need it. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to hear from one of my favorite people, Jeff Tobin and Le Bonheur Children's Hospital.
We in pediatrics and in pediatric cardiology as a subspecialty of pediatrics are strong believers of not just do no harm, but do good, do better. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is what you would consider a thick heart muscle disease. So when the heart squeezes, it squeezes better than normal, but it's very stiff when it relaxes. It can cause sudden cardiac death. And so that's the key concern when it comes to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
This affects nearly 1 in 500 patients, so that's a lot of people suffering with this disease and potentially not even being aware. And so we want to do everything we can to get the science to move forward. And clinical trials are what help us to advance medicine so that we're not just treating the symptoms of the problem, but treating the problem itself. We understand that it is a little scary sometimes when you're talking about a new medicine or a trial. Part of clinical trials and part of doing clinical trials well is to make sure that there's a lot of oversight to ensure that what we're doing is safe, that what we are doing is the best that we can offer for our patients, and that all of the trial work that gets done is based in science that has been vetted and founded and solidified over many years, so that the ways that we can help support patients now and patients 5 and 10 years from now is to do these kinds of studies and to be a little bit bold.
Clinical trials is the only way for us to figure out beyond a single individual patient, but the entirety of the disease process that affects many patients, of how to go about treating them best so that they have the best, longest outcomes.
So our institution is currently enrolling patients in a clinical trial that's looking at a medicine called mavacamten. It is a myosin inhibitor. Myosin, which is one of the key proteins of the heart muscle to help it squeeze and relax. In hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, myosin essentially works too well. And so current therapies are looking to inhibit myosin function and allow better relaxation and improved function in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy patients. The adult population has seen success with clinical trials of this particular medicine, and so we're very excited to be enrolling pediatric and adolescent patients to see if they will have the same success.
Anyone who wants to join any of our clinical trials are more than welcome to contact us here at Le Bonheur in the Division of Pediatric Cardiology and the Heart Institute.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Jeff Tobin's one of my favorite people. He is to pediatric cardiomyopathy what Barry Marion is to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. You get to the top of the game, and have nothing but love and admiration for both of them, actually. Can we get the next slide, and can we bring up Harry Lever and David Light? Oh, no, first we're gonna hear from Edgewise, but while we're doing that, we can get them up on stage.
Not just today, but every day we move together.
Together towards new possibilities, uniting our strengths and furthering innovation.
With a focus on every heart affected by HCM.
Not just today, but every day we stand with you.
Happy HCM Awareness Day!
I had not seen that one yet. Thanks to our friends at Edgewise. That was super cute. Okay. Again, a call for donations. You guys are killing me tonight. All right, let's get David Light and Harry Lever, two of my other favorite people, up on the screen here. Generic drug quality issues. So many, many years ago, a dear friend, Dr. Harry Lever of the Cleveland Clinic, one of our first Center of Excellence partners to help patients with HCM get what they needed, called me up and said, Lisa, I just heard something on the radio and I'm really concerned. And when Harry Lever tells me I'm really concerned, I'm listening. So Harry, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to learn about the generic drug quality problem, and then we'll introduce David after that. My audience knows who you are. You're the man that needs no introductions, Harry. So tell me about the start.
On May the 25th of 2007, I was driving to work and I was listening to NPR radio, and there was, it was quite a show. They were talking about food and drugs coming from the Orient. And I didn't realize that that was going on. And there were all sorts of problems that they talked about with these food and the drugs that were coming. And it caused me to get on Google and start Googling food and drugs from different places. And much to my surprise, there was a lot coming in from these places, and it caused a lot of concern. Things were not as good as one would have thought. As a matter of fact, were really bad. And so I continued to look, and I started seeing patients with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy that were taking metoprolol succinate, and some of them weren't doing very well. We would, they'd come in and their symptoms weren't doing well. And I started looking at where things were coming from. And again, they were coming from foreign countries. And I noticed that if I would if we'd switch the drug from to a name brand drug, there'd be a big change in how the patient was doing. And so and that's all I'd have to do is go back to the name brand. Well, in January of 2019, before COVID hit, I was written up about one of these patients in Bloomberg News by a reporter by the name of Anna Edney. And at the same time, in another article published closely at that time was this guy, David Light. And what did David Light do? He was testing drugs. Now, I didn't have the capability at that time to test drugs, but I had my clinical judgment taking care of patients and I could see what was going on. But when I saw that this guy, David Light, was testing drugs, I said, I have to find him and get in touch with him. And I called the reporter, got his phone number, and found him in New Haven, Connecticut. And we've become good friends ever since. And he's going to tell you about some of the stuff that he's been doing.
So then I was happy that Harry introduced me to David Light. And David Light, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what battle you're fighting right now and how we can all get involved?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me, and can't get a better intro than that. So thanks, Harry. Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, I'm a scientist by training, and I heard actually a lot of the same kind of story from a good friend of mine from college, and on anticonvulsant drugs. And he was telling me every once in a while he refilled his meds and he just felt terrible that month. And he'd get all these side effects and relapses sometimes. And he'd go and talk to his doctors, and his doctors would tell him, listen, there's variability these days, especially with generic drugs. And, you know, a lot of them made overseas, and there's just not a whole lot we can do about it as doctors or pharmacists. And so my friend Adam, that happened to him, obviously didn't like that answer and came to me and was starting to tell me about it. And, you know, of course, my immediate reaction was feeling bad for Adam, but surely this must be a fluke. Surely the FDA is out there testing all the drugs that you pick up in your pharmacy. You know, I came from the biotech industry building DNA sequencing machines and didn't really think much about, you know, the chemical quality of medicines. But long story short, turns out there are quite a few issues. A lot of people like Adam, a lot of, I wish there were more doctors like Harry that paid this close of attention, but, you know, especially in recent years, been hearing it from quite a number of doctors. And our big thought, you know, Adam and I and some other co-founders basically said, hey, we got to actually do some independent testing. Nobody's really testing the quality of these medicines other than the manufacturers themselves. There are regulations. They are supposed to do all this work, but the FDA is not out there testing. Very, very rarely. A few dozen times a year, they'll do a few on-market tests, and those usually pass. And so we said, we're going to insert ourselves in the supply chain, do some chemistry, do some independent testing, not just the kind of good manufacturing style box of regulatory testing, but scientifically, academically minded. And in a few years, we found some of the biggest drug quality issues. You know, drugs like Zantac, we found had carcinogens, were making carcinogens, got withdrawn all over the world. Metformin, a very similar issue with these nitrosamine carcinogens. We found benzene, an extremely potent carcinogen, in sunscreens and hand sanitizers. You might have heard of some of those recalls. And last thing I'll say is we finally grown the concept to really plug into the larger supply chain, working with large health systems like Kaiser Permanente and recently the military health system, you know, over 10 million people or so in those kinds of systems, to actually add this independent quality assurance into their procurement decisions, and hopefully continue to grow this so that we address these issues, remove low quality products and favor the high quality ones.
So I want to make a statement that's pretty loud and pretty bold. Not all generic drugs are bad. Not all generic drugs have quality problems. Some of them are excellent in quality and low price, but some of them are not. What did we learn? Do you have some slides for us tonight that you wanted to show us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think our people might be very interested in this, considering one of the major drugs that you've been looking at is metoprolol, a very common drug for our community.
That's right. Now, you see my screen on the initial data on metoprolol?
We do, yes.
So perfect. I mean, this we presented just a few months ago at the Uniformed Services University. And to just give some flavor, there's a lot of testing that goes into this, but at the end of the day, what our military project is all about is to look at all the various supplier of a drug, in this case, metoprolol succinate, as Harry was talking about, is one of the first areas that he was seeing problems with his own patients. And this drug is on the military essential medicines list. So not only is it the 6th most prescribed drug in the United States, it's very important for the military. It's very important, you know, throughout any health system. And so we acquired over a dozen of the different manufacturers or labelers of these products, ran a variety of different tests on them. And long story short, that boils down into a red, yellow, green score. And really what we saw is that there was a substantial issue with some drugs, and you're absolutely right. There's actually a lot of greens on here. People sometimes focus, oh, there's red, there's some yellows here and there.
Look at all the green.
But the reality is there's a lot of green. And one of the things that we saw biggest problem with, and we see this in a few different drugs that are extended release, is that they don't all release the same. So it's not just about, if it says 100 milligrams, is it 100 milligrams? That can be a problem sometimes. Could there be carcinogens, contaminants, lead, arsenic, heavy metals? But this is one of the issues that really concerns us and can really turn into clinical impact. The dark black line is the brand that had the thousands of people clinical trial and kind of set the curve, so to speak, for how these drugs dissolve in your body. And a lot of generics, very similar, dissolving in a very similar rate over time. And then occasionally some that are substantially different. Literally, we calculate what's called the difference percentage. And that's a big driver for some of these scores. And I know, Lisa, you had asked, well, what about prices? We actually have recently done that analysis, and this is all private sector data from the actual costs that we spent on various drugs from various wholesalers and suppliers, so that this is, actually what a pharmacy is going to spend. This is not what a patient spends, through getting their prescription. But the point was that there's no correlation between price and quality, and almost all these dots are generic drugs. And so the point is, you can get a low-cost, green-rated metoprolol succinate, potassium chloride. There's other drugs that we've been looking at, but the data seems to be quite similar, where you can spend more money on a red and spend even less on a green. There's just no transparency to that quality. And that's what we're trying to give for the large health systems that are buying this. And hopefully we'll come to the patients where they're going to get the same cost, same drug, but with a favorable selection to those that are green.
So what do we have to do to fix the problem?
I think the key is in the transparency to the quality. Harry did the hardest possible thing. A practitioner that is actually paying attention to the specific supplier, the specific manufacturer of his patient's drugs, and unfortunately only able to do that through a trial and error process. You got a bad one, or one where you're not performing as well on, and then he has to switch it and see if it gets better. And Harry will tell you also that doesn't always work. There could be lots of problems in addressing a patient's symptoms. I love how he referred to it in Catherine Eben's book, Bottle of Lies, as the X factor, right? There's many factors you have to deal with when looking at a complex diagnosis, a complex problem that they're trying to treat. And but one of them is the drug quality, and we're seeing more and more evidence of that. So the long story short, Lisa, is that we need more of this in DC. I think having rules out there, legislation that make sure we have this kind of information. The Defense Department's really leading the way there, and it's amazing to work with those guys. And then to use it, Kaiser Permanente is using this kind of data. We know it can work at a scale of a health system that has over 10 million patients. And the military is really trying to make this a model for the nation. An important point is that the national drug codes that are attached to these scores are the same codes that everybody uses, whether you're buying in the military, whether you're in the VA, whether you're going to your local pharmacy, whether you're, Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. Everybody's using national drug codes. So it's really meant to be not just for the military, but a model for the nation.
So what we need to be doing is, in my opinion, batch evaluation. A batch comes in, we need to test it. If it doesn't meet our expectations, we should send it back to the manufacturer, and they can reprocess and they can refill the order. What other product would we accept without knowing the quality? And we're putting this stuff in our bodies. So we need some checks and balances. And one of the things that we are hoping to do on our Hill Day is address this issue at the Capitol and ask our elected officials to help us with some resolution. It is an important problem. It is personal to me as well. I take tacrolimus. It's another drug that had about the same types of problems as metoprolol. And I've gotten bad drug. I had the side effects from that. I know people who have had heart transplants who all of a sudden just stopped doing well. And turns out that there was some problems with tacrolimus at the time. And some of them went on to getting other transplants, and some died. So we need to make sure that all of the drugs we have in our supply chain are of the quality that they should be, that the dissolution rate, how fast the drug gets into your body, not too fast, not too slow, and the quality of the product is what we expect it to be. I'm going to just say thank you to Harry Lever, who has been beating this drum for almost 20 years relentlessly and constantly bringing it to front of mind and discussion, and to those patients who said, hey, no, there's something wrong, and we're gaslit and told, no, it's fine. Just had a young man, he's not even 30 years old. He lives in New York State. He wasn't feeling right one day, and he realized after listening to our podcast from November, he went, let me look at my prescription. And then he realized that they had changed the manufacturer. He had to go to the emergency room that day because he was feeling so poorly. He went back on name brand drug, and he's feeling better now. But he heard the podcast. He didn't feel well. He checked his manufacturer on the bottle, realized it changed, and took action. That's too much to ask for people to have to monitor every little thing to that degree. And as consumers, we deserve protections, especially on the things that we're putting into our body. So I think together we can work for change. And I look forward to continuing to fight for change in this area. And I thank you both for everything that you're doing in this space. And David, we look forward to our partnership. And now that we're through HCM Awareness Day, we get to start planning Hill Day. So we'll have a meeting on that soon. Dr. Lever, thank you for all you do for the HCM community today, yesterday, and your entire career. There's a lot of love out here for you tonight. And David, thank you for taking on this challenge. And now we are going to pivot to our next session. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
And Ross is going to come back. And now let's hear from our friends at Bristol Myers Squibb.
On behalf of BMS and our entire cardiovascular team, we are proud to recognize HCM Awareness Day and the work of the HCMA advocating for patients with HCM.
At BMS, our employees around the world work together for patients. You are at the center of everything we do.
You are the reason we come to work each day. You inspire us, and we work for you.
Our goal is to advance research for patients in need. By collaborating with patient advocacy groups, we work closely with those affected by HCM to increase our understanding and help guide our development efforts.
We apply key learnings and real-world experience to our efforts so that future advancements will be relevant to the diverse group of patients we serve and to the needs of clinicians.
We're driven to learn from you and the HCM community so that we can support better heart health for all.
We value our work with advocacy groups because they share our vision and sense of urgency to ensure that people with HCM can access education, care, and treatment.
The support and resources provided by the HCMA to patients, their families, and the healthcare community continue to make a major impact.
Together, we are committed to creating a world with better outcomes for those living with HCM.
Happy HCM Awareness Day.
And thanks to our friends at BMS. Now we're going to talk about finding the undiagnosed. And if somebody wants to give me a tag when Maureen is available, we can kind of go back and talk about the next slides again, or if she has her own. But we're going to talk about finding the undiagnosed. Next slide, please, Ross. So through the work of the Elizabeth T. McNamee Legislative Committee, we have been able to devise draft legislation to help improve surveillance in the Children's Cardiac Safety Act. Next slide, please. We've also been able to activate our membership and our friends across the country to seek HCM Awareness Day proclamations, resolutions, and laws. This gives us an opportunity to take one day out of the year to really focus on the needs of our community and plan for the year ahead and reflect on the year past. And we really appreciate that we've had to use smaller font for 2025 because we've had so many more states pop in. And for anybody who was here in the office, many of these proclamations now hang on the wall of the HCMA and remind us every day is HCM Awareness Day here at the HCMA. But for one day a year, we all can focus. Next slide, please. We've created a state report card. And if you're wondering how your state is doing, you can go to the HCMA website and look up the report card and see what is available in your state for regulation and law at this time. Do they have HCM Awareness Day? Do they have good AED placement laws? And if they have AED laws, are they for public schools, private schools, gyms, public buildings? Where are they required? Is there CPR training required for high school graduation? Are there Good Samaritan laws in place for people to be able to use AEDs and CPR without facing liability? Is the pre-participation screening physical form standard for the state, or does each district get to change it and thereby maybe miss something? So we want one form. Is there a state certified certification requirement for the people who are actually conducting the PPEs? Some states just a few years ago were allowing non-physician specialists like chiropractors and podiatrists to do cardiac screenings on children. That has been pretty much, disappeared now, but we find these laws can still be out there. We want to have the timeline closer to the time of participation in the sport. That one's a little hard because it is a time issue. Professional development is required, so the physicians must take a course so they know what they're looking for. And other requirements, I won't go through each and every one of them, but in addition to the HCM Act original requirements, which is now the Children's Cardiac Safety Act, we also have access issues related to copay accumulators, step therapy, safe medical delivery of medication, and non-medical switching rules. Some of you may be aware that about 2 years ago, one big payer system, CVS Caremark, decided they were only going to cover one anticoagulant, and it wasn't Eliquis, and most of our patients were on Eliquis. So we joined together with a bunch of other organizations and we fought, and in under 6 months, we had that overturned. And you went back to getting your Eliquis, and you didn't know why, but there was a bunch of us fighting behind the scenes to make it happen for you. So going again into the Children's Cardiac Safety Act, what we want to do is we want to make sure that well child examinations are covering those cardiac questions. We want to improve professional development. We want to make sure student athletes not only get screened, but know the risk factors for sudden death, as well as their families and coaches know what those risk factors are and look like, including the signs and symptoms. We want to improve the ability of healthcare providers to identify children at risk, and we want to improve AED coverage and training. Next slide, please. We know that this is bipartisan. Everybody has hearts. We know that it is cost effective. It is proactive versus reactive. It limits the cost of diagnostic procedures to those who are flagged. And as you heard earlier tonight, there might be a role for using AI technology in this process, but we're not quite there yet. We want to make sure that we're averting the much higher cost of neuroinjury and other injuries that can be caused by the survival from cardiac arrest. We want to promote cardiac wellness in children, not just student athletes. And the proof of concept has already been shown in the state of New Jersey. Really bad timing on a sneeze there. Can we go back one slide? No, backwards. Okay. We have vetted this language through our friends at the American Heart Association who support us, and we want to provide more healthcare providers with the ability to identify genetic and congenital defects. Next slide, please. The American Academy of Pediatrics published an article back in 21 that was a call to action to do a better job of screening our children's hearts. So we took up that call through our legislative initiatives. And again, we are very happy to have our partners at American Heart help us with this initiative. We're running it because they have other initiatives they're running on the state level, but they have supported this, and every state we go into, they will be right there with us. Next slide, please. Currently in the United States, all of the conditions that we're looking for, it's not just HCM, it's ARVC, it's dilated cardiomyopathy, it's Marfan's, it's long QT syndrome, Brugada syndrome, CPVT, anomalous coronary arteries, and congenital defects On the high end, we're talking about 10 million people. On the low end, we're talking about 3.5 million people. We know there's more to be found, and we know we can help keep families whole if we identify these people sooner and get them to proper care. Next slide, please. I want to give a big shout out to Noah and his organization, his company, Model Solutions. They have come to our aid through the assistance of a family who lost a loved one and donated his services to us. And he has been helping us get into some of these states and get bills passed and get them moving through the system. And we're super encouraged by what we've just seen in the past couple of weeks. Next slide, please. Oh, I didn't know where discussion groups came up on this one. I'm a little confused right now. I thought we were seeing another slide. Oh, no. Where is my slide with the videos? Okay. So I'm going to go into my slide deck for a second and take a peek because I think something got a little out of order here, but that's okay. We've had a lot of slides. We're on 105 right now, which means we're wrapping up, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting to the end of the night and an announcement. Oh, it's on the next. It's on 107. So something got dropped in there about discussion groups. Sorry. Let's go 2 slides ahead. Oh, I'll take it from here, Ross. I got it. I got it for the rest. Oops, except for 1 second. It's a really big PowerPoint, people. Oh my goodness, I'm on the trivia game. 1 second. So we have some exciting news, and I want you to hear it from our committee members because they've been doing such a hard job getting it to where it needs to be. And here we, nope. Oh, you got it? Okay. So here's my announcement, everybody. We have an announcement.
you all here this evening.
Go. Because something happened last week, and by the end of this week, we should have been successful in something that has taken us a really long time to do. So back in 2020, Bill and I started this concept of we need to come up with something very specific in our ask for our legislative initiatives at the state level. And there were some early members of the committee, some of which are here tonight and some of which are not, who helped do the really difficult work of drafting those first pieces of what we hope to become law in other states. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had a bill introduced in the Virginia Senate. We went to committee, we got out of committee, we got to the Senate, we got through the Senate 100% on our side. We went to the House, we went to a committee. There was some minor things that were adjusted. We'll come back for those other things later. And we got through the House committee, and we got through the House, which means we got through the House, and we got through the Senate, which means all we're waiting on is the governor's signature in the state of Virginia to bring the Children's Cardiac Safety Act to law. It's in my class.
That's
Oh,
it's
wonderful news.
And the shout outs. The shout outs.
Oh,
hopefully lots of children
will be
saved. Wow.
Okay, Ross, you
Wonderful
can
young
stop
people.
this video. We did one. Okay, so these are members of the legislative committee that I brought together 2 days ago to share this news with them. We are not fully there yet, but we are damn close to a law in the state of Virginia. So thank you to everybody in Virginia who made that happen, including Dr. Chris Kramer, who testified at our legislative briefing earlier this month, and all of our friends in Virginia who wanted this to happen and spoke up. So we are on our way to, that was that trick question, the 1.75, because we don't have it fully there yet. It's 1.75 laws. So I want to thank everybody for their hard work on this particular initiative. And we are looking at bills in Rhode Island. We are looking at bills in Minnesota. We have one coming up in Michigan, Massachusetts, and we're going to do some revisiting on some of the things we've done here in New Jersey already, just to tighten them up to our current standards. So I thank you all for your participation and assistance here. I'm not going to play this entire video because I got really emotional, and I'm going to probably do it again. But the McNamee family lost their Elizabeth a long, long time ago, back in 98, 99. And every year they did a 5K on Long Island, and they donated the money to HCMA when we didn't have a lot of money at all. And it kept us going some years. Just that donation kept the doors open. And Elizabeth passed away from undiagnosed HCM. And she was in law school, and she was clerking for a judge, and she was going to be in the legislative realm somewhere. And she died before any of that could come to reality. But her fingerprints and her life are represented in the work that we do in this committee. And my sincere thanks to the McNamee family for everything that they have done for us since 1999, actually. So thank you to Maria and Frank and Bill and the rest of the family. You will always have a special place in my heart, and thank you for supporting this community and allowing us to hit these milestones. Thank you. Next slide, please. I'm gonna cry. So happy. Now we're gonna hear from the University of Washington.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Owens, and I'm a cardiologist at the University of Washington. And although I've been specializing in the care of HCM patients for about 15 years, we at UW are proud to have newly received the Center of Excellence designation from the HCMA. Today is HCM Awareness Day, and I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight one aspect of HCM care, that is family screening. Because HCM is often a genetic condition, we encourage all of our patients to consider genetic testing. Compared to other testing like echoes and cardiac MRI, gene testing is relatively inexpensive, simple to perform, and usually only needs to be done on one occasion. In the right hands, it may also have prognostic and treatment implications. If a patient is found to carry a disease-causing genetic change, then we can use this information to screen first-degree family members, that is, parents, siblings, and children. If the relative does not carry the genetic change, they are home free and do not need additional testing, nor do any of their children. On the other hand, if the relative does carry the genetic change, then we just look more closely at the heart using echo, EKG, and perhaps a cardiac MRI. Now, carrying a genetic change is different than having overt hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, but it makes it more likely that they will develop HCM at some point in the future. Serial screening every 1 to 2 years for children and adolescents and every 3 to 5 years for adults is reasonable. If the patient is gene negative or has not had genetic testing, then the recommendations for family screening depend on the age of the relative. Children and adolescents should be screened every 2 to 3 years, and adults every 3 to 5 years. More frequent screening is performed if there is a family history of early onset disease or a strong family history of sudden death. Now, screening generally consists of an echo and an EKG, but I would encourage people to have this performed through a center of excellence if possible. Subtle features can be easily missed by providers who are not as familiar with HCM or the screening process. Thank you for watching this short video. We at UW are excited to be a part of the HCM community, and we'll be hosting the HCMA Big Hearted Warrior Tour this July. I hope to see many members of the Pacific Northwest HCM community there. Thank you.
HCM Awareness Day, Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Awareness Day, and the HCMA Ambassadors, a group of diverse individuals, are committed to helping the HCMA, a 501c3 organization, shine the light on this genetic heart condition that affects 1 in 250 people, all women, men, and children who are either diagnosed or unknowingly living with this condition, regardless of age or ethnicity.
There are so many people that are misdiagnosed and people that go undiagnosed. And by raising awareness through all of our channels, through social media, through our friends, through our colleagues, we're able to build awareness for this disease. And with that comes more focus on treatments and potential cures. So being an ambassador and helping spread the word is something that has been a driving force for me since this program started. I'm so happy to be a part of it.
By enlightening others on how to get screened and recognize this disease, we can prevent sudden cardiac deaths and improve the quality of life for those silently suffering with HCM. I myself lived 20 years in ignorance, and through the power of screening and treatment from an HCMA recognized Center for Excellence, I'm able to manage my disease and have been able to relieve my symptoms. I'm lucky to be here today, and it's important to pay it forward to honor the memory of all of those whom we lost and for the sake of all those whom we can save.
Symptoms are so very commonly misdiagnosed as other ailments, and I want to make sure that heart disease is something we're talking about every day as well. If I can encourage just one person to listen to their symptoms and say that they want to get checked, I feel I've succeeded.
And if I can help save a life, that is why I became an HCMA ambassador. Please take a minute and help me spread the word. You may just save a life.
The least that I could possibly do is support and help all of those other individuals who just need to be seen, heard, to provide that love and unconditional support for all that you're going through, where you are right here and now.
I've been an ambassador for HCM for about a year and a half. And the reason I do it is for this lady right here. And that is my mama. And she searched for 69 years for answers of what is wrong with her. And she could never get those answers. 2 years after she died, I was diagnosed with HCM, and it immediately smacked me in the face and said, this is the answer your mom searched for all her life. So I am not an ambassador for myself. I'm an ambassador for my mom, because if she would have only known or had not fallen through the cracks, I truly believe she would be here today.
Being an HCMA ambassador is important to me because HCM has had a really big impact on my family. My family, a sudden cardiac arrest has taken the lives of few family members. So by raising awareness, I'm hoping that other families won't have to go through that. Raising awareness in general, hopefully people will advocate for themselves, ask the right questions, and get a proper diagnosis that will lead them to excellent care.
HCM claimed the life of my brother at 33 years old and left my family at great risk. After his passing, I learned that his care was grossly mishandled.
I want to make sure that there is nobody else that goes through what I have been going through in my HCM journey.
For me as an HCMA ambassador to raise awareness, because my grandma and my mom might both still be here had they been aware of their disease.
We are the faces of HCM. Get to know us.
Thank you so much to our amazing ambassadors, and we have more coming from them in the coming weeks. You're going to hear a really cute piece dropped in a few days about hard to say, hard to pronounce, but easy to do something about. Ross, can we bring up Maureen from backstage for a moment? We're going to wrap with Nest, and then we are going to conclude this evening's HCM Awareness Day telethon is what it feels like on this side. All of our guests here are gone. Maureen, thank you so much. I'm sorry we had some scheduling problems. We had some tech issues. Thank you so much for joining us on HCM Awareness Day. And I'm really happy to be able to wrap with you because we have had a very successful relationship so far. The product that Nest Genomics has been able to deliver for the HCM community has been incredibly helpful. So the microphone is yours, dear. Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And after that beautiful video, that was such a nice video. So I'm here to give an update on everything that we've done in the last 2 years and everything that we still want to do ahead of us. So can you progress the slide? Should I tell you when I wanted to progress? Oh, yes. Thank you. So HCMA and Nest partnered to make it easier to access education and HCMA expert services, and just to provide another way to stay in touch through the Nest platform. This year, HCMA had a survey that they ran in the community that found that 66% of the HCMA members believe that healthcare education helps their HCM decision making. So we definitely kind of feel that those delivering those services on Nest have a lot of value. And then also that 58% of HCM members utilize digital tools whenever that's possible. So that has been great. What we're offering in the HCMA Nest is, it is really your home for information about HCM. And you could find there all of the different resources and videos, educational content that was developed by HCM and is available to you at any time that you want to access those services. It is provided at no charge to you. It is a HIPAA compliant and SOC 2 certified. So that means that it's a very secure software platform that is built to help provide additional support and services around HCM and provide the tools that you need to stay on top of the latest too. And then in the next slide, I'll show you kind of like the things that we've done. So we have a couple of services. Once you kind of like get access to Nest, one of the first, and if you're a new HCM member, one of the first things that we do on that journey is help prepare you for a nav call. Nest kind of reaches out prior to the nav call and collects important information that it shares with the HCMA team to kind of prepare for your call and things that you would like to focus on and talk about in your nav call. After that nav call, we also send personalized education that are based on that conversation that you had your navigation call. So it really kind of continues that personalization that happens within the navigation. And then you can stay up to date with all of the latest information in Nest. Both you can receive that kind of within notifications, but also you can proactively access anything you want to learn about. For example, if you want to learn about exercising with HCM, you can find the content there, and everything has been approved and worked on by the HCMA team, as well as kind of like all the centers of excellence that you could find there and the different resources. And then coming soon this year, we'll be expanding with more comprehensive personal and family history collection and additional services with all of the exciting things that Lisa has for you this year. And we're really happy to see kind of to date, there's been 1,000 HCMA members that have activated and engaged with Nest. Specifically this year on kind of the nav call, we had almost 200 patients invited. 90% of them, when they get kind of the invitation to Nest, find it very easy to use. They log into it. And then another 90% of the members complete their tasks and kind of like intake prior to the nav call. So we invite you to access it and use it when you're invited. You'll find it very easy and engaging to use. Just last slide to kind of like make it a little bit more tangible. So when you receive this, you know what to expect. On the left, you can see kind of like this intake for your personalized nav call and the Learn library, where you can learn about cardiac MRI, Big Hearted Warrior tour. It updates all the time. You'll also be able to see Lisa on the HCMA videos, and that will also be kind of like upgraded this year. And then also there might be things there where we want, if any information is needed to be collected about kind of like how things are going in terms of guidelines and management, you'll be able to also provide that information there. I know this was a long event. So
it was a long event, and we actually are going to go to our memorial slides in a minute. So we spend a lot of days celebrating, but there's a couple of things we need to also do during this day. So Maureen, thank you for ending our content on all of our services. And we've truly enjoyed our relationship with Nest over the past 2 years. We have one thing in common. We're like, okay, what do we need to do? Let's get it done. And I love that about you and your team. And my team has really enjoyed working with your team. So
likewise. Congratulations on a wonderful event. Really, it was beautiful.
Thank you very much. Russ, can we go back to the drive? Maureen, thank you so much for taking some time in your busy travel to speak with us today. Truly appreciate it. Okay. We have, what do we got there, Ross? Oh, I know what this is. So
terrific.
This was with the ambassador. Go ahead.
Cardio.
Myopathy.
Hypertrophic.
Cardiomyopathy.
Hypertrophic. Cardiomyopathy.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Hard to say.
Hard to say.
But easy to learn about.
To learn more, visit 4hcm.org.
Sorry, that slide was a little out of place, but I knew it was in there somewhere. Okay. Thanks to the ambassadors for that great piece. You're going to start seeing that on social media everywhere. Upbeat Volume 2 is coming to you now. Volume 3 shall be started sometime after this night. Next slide. Again, don't forget to donate. I'm going to go past that one. I've already hit you up enough tonight. And now I want to talk about our memorials. I'm going to start with very quick video clip. I hope it went in the right order. Yes. Deshaun. Go ahead. Those are two very special little angels. Deshaun passed away in September of 2014 after being told his HCM was rather mild. Jaden, his sister, went on to get a heart transplant. And unfortunately, as her teenage years started to begin, she had a lot of difficulty living with the transplant and unfortunately passed away in June of 22. I had the opportunity to meet Jaden. She came to New Jersey and I took her to the pasta shop for dinner and we had a lovely evening. And my heart breaks every time I see a picture of her. And this morning, that was the video that her mother posted. So I thought that was a really good way to start off the memorials. We've talked about a lot of success and a lot of great patients doing a lot of great things, but not all of us make it to the finish line the way we want. And these are two little souls who we lost way too soon. Next slide, please, Ross. There is a very long list of those we've lost. And this is not an all-encompassing list because it would take too many slides. So Russ, if you could just populate that. These are some of the names of some of those we have lost. I will pick a few names to bring out. First of all, Carolyn Biro, the founder of Cardiomyopathy UK, a fierce advocate and a dear, dear friend. Josh Eichhoff, a dear friend, lost way too soon and former board member. The very first patient ever diagnosed with HCM, Claude Brady, had a heart transplant in 1988 and lived till January 22. We miss him dearly. And of course, my sister Lori, who passed away on June 16th, 1995 at the age of 36. There are so many we've lost, so many broken hearts, but we are vowing to keep families whole. And that is our mission. Less names on this slide, more advocates on the other side. We think of you all. We miss you every day. You are in our every thought when we come to work, when we do what we do. You are not forgotten. Next slide, please. Here's some photos. Names are names, dates are dates. These are people. These are mothers, brothers, sisters, friends. They're everybody. We are everywhere. HCM patients are everywhere. I love that picture of Heather. I miss so many of those faces. And tomorrow, I believe it is, it's not today this year, but Dominic would have been 19 this year. He was lost at 12 years old. And as his birthday falls at the end of February, last year it was on HCM Awareness Day. I think his birthday is 28th, but he should be 19 years old this week. And his parents will not have that 19th birthday party with him there. We need to keep fighting. Next slide, please. Do you want to share your story? Do you want to get more involved? Hit the QR code, contact Julie. We need all hands on deck. We got a lot of work to do. Next slide. Thank you to every one of our sponsors, our partners, and our friends. Without your support, we couldn't do any of this. And I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. HCM Day 2025 is in the books. I hope you learned something. I hope you thought about some things in a different way. I hope you donated a little. I hope you laughed a little. And I hope that you all take advantage of our intake and navigation call and stay involved. If there's things we're not doing that you want us to do, talk to us. Tell us what it is that we can do to make your journey with HCM a little bit better. But I think you're all going to like my mental health program that's developing right now. So thank you all. And a big special shout out to my own family, to Adam, who's in the other room at 9 o'clock at night, waiting for me to go home, to Becca, to Stacy, to John, to everybody in my family who's been affected by HCM and has been here for this mission since day one. Thank you. I love you all. And to this entire team that has become an amazing force here at the HCMA, you are each equally important to our success. And I thank you for being part of the mission. Thank you all. And that concludes our webinar for tonight. Thank you. And good night. I don't know how to, oh, I can end it here. Good night, all.